Qin Liyue had simply gone out on a date with her boyfriend. But by accident she knocked on the wrong door. In that instant, the first kiss she had guarded for years was stolen by a complete stranger. And this man would go on to change the course of her life. She struggled to break free, but the man just smirked, telling her to drop the act and name her price. Then he tossed out 500,000 yuan as compensation for the kiss. Outraged, Qin Liyue lashed out at him. Did he really think she was that kind of woman? She despised arrogant rich boys who thought money made them untouchable, and in her fluster she blurted out her name. The moment he heard Qin Liyue, his expression shifted, shock flashing across his face. She immediately worried that revealing her name would only invite more trouble. The more she thought about it, the more shaken she felt, deciding to treat the whole incident like a dog bite, best forgotten. Seizing the moment, she made her escape. Once she was gone, a sly grin curled on the man's lips. This time you won't escape me. Qin Liyue braced herself and knocked on her boyfriend's door, only to be met by a stranger in nothing but a bath towel. From inside, her boyfriend's irritated voice called out, demanding to know who was at the door. She could hardly believe it. The man who always played the part of the honest, dependable type was nothing but a fraud. Even after being caught red-handed, he acted shamelessly and tossed out a blunt, "Let's break up." 5 years together since their sophomore year, and yet it couldn't compare to one night in another woman's bed. If that was love, she didn't want it. She agreed to the breakup on the spot and demanded her salary card back. She had once believed he was the one, trusting him enough to let him manage her money, even dreaming of buying a home together. But when she found out the account had been drained to almost nothing, she finally saw his true colors. He sneered and laid it bare. "If you weren't pretty, you think I'd have stayed with you? 5 years and you never even let me kiss you once." Those words cut into Qin Liyue's heart like a knife. That day, Qin Liyue received a call out of the blue. Her aunt had been kidnapped. The kidnappers demanded 1 million yuan in ransom before they would let her go. Desperate, she had gone to her boyfriend for her salary card. But fate played its cruel trick. She lost her first kiss to a stranger and caught her boyfriend cheating in the same day. Fighting to stay composed, she bent down and picked up the card. Then she flung it straight into his face. "Keep the rest, buy yourself a coffin." With things as they were, she had no choice but to find another way to save her aunt, her only living family. She kept telling herself everything would be fine, but tears still welled up in her eyes. In the end, she couldn't hold them back, breaking down in the cold night rain. Out of options, Qin Liyue swallowed her pride and went to her uncle's family for help. All she was met with was distance and indifference. Her spiteful aunt, eager to tie the family to the wealthy Zhong clan, demanded that Qin Liyue marry Zhong Mingze, a man known to be simple-minded. Her aunt-in-law spoke as if it were perfectly reasonable. Once this marriage went through, the Qin family could finally latch onto the wealthy Zhong clan. After that, her own daughter could marry the simple groom's older brother, Zhong Mingho. She even added, "You can always divorce later if you want." Qin Jiar, standing nearby, twisted the knife. "So what if you marry an idiot? It's better than selling yourself. Do you know how many times you'd have to sell to make 1 million? At that moment, Qin Liyue's heart was in turmoil. Was she really going to trade her own happiness for their wealth and status? Once she entered that family, would she ever get out? Just then, a deliverman arrived with a package. She thought for a fleeting second that it might be her ex-boyfriend feeling guilty. But when she opened it, she nearly dropped dead from shock. Inside was one of her aunt's fingers. A note lay beside it. 3 days to agree or she dies. Between her aunt's life hanging by a thread and her relatives' cold mockery, she broke down in tears, abandoning her principles and agreed to marry the wealthy simpleton. The Qin mother and daughter finally got what they wanted, their faces curling into sly, satisfied smiles. On the day of the wedding, Qin Liyue's heart was a knot of anxiety. She had never imagined she would be marrying not the man she loved, but a simple stranger she had never even met. Dressed in a pure white gown, she looked ethereal, drawing gasps of admiration from the crowd. Guests whispered among themselves, saying the Zhong family's fool had truly lucked out with such a stunning bride. Standing on stage, Qin Liyue kept her composure. So what if he was a fool? At least he wasn't one of those monsters hiding behind a human face. Then amid the applause, the groom slowly stepped forward. In the next instant, the entire room was stunned. The groom wasn't Zhong Mingza at all. It was his older brother, Zhong Mingho. The sight made the Qin mother and daughter's hearts shatter on the spot. Qin Jiara couldn't accept it. Her perfect Prince Charming marrying the lowly Liyue? She shouted her objection right there from the audience. Madame Qin's expression darkened, and she dragged her daughter out without another word. When Qin Liyue finally got a good look at the groom, she froze. That was the same pervert who had stolen her first kiss. He didn't look the slightest bit like a fool. Zhong Mingho strutted up to her with a smug grin. "This time," he murmured, "you won't slip through my fingers." Originally, the Zhong family's grandmother had planned to marry off her simple-minded grandson in hopes of warding off misfortune. But Zhong Mingho had stepped in, insisting on taking his brother's place. He even declared that if it wasn't her, he would marry no one. Thus the last-minute switch at the altar. To Qin Liyue, Zhong Mingho was nothing but a shameless rogue. Marrying his foolish brother would have felt more secure. But he didn't give her the chance to object. In front of everyone, he took her hand and began a heartfelt confession. She hadn't expected such smooth words to come from this brazen man. Then, without hesitation, he slipped the wedding ring onto her finger. She still didn't know what scheme he was plotting, but right now, all that mattered was saving her aunt. Their eyes locked, and as Qin Liyue took in Zhong Mingho's impossibly handsome face, her heart began to race wildly. She thought to herself, what a waste of such a perfect face. Before she could gather her thoughts, he pulled her into his arms again, murmuring in a low, possessive voice, "Qin Liyue, this time I won't let you go so easily." On their wedding night, Qin Liyue felt nothing but unease. She had been told she would marry the simple-minded Zhong Mingza. So why had it turned out to be the shameless rogue who had stolen her first kiss, Zhong Mingho? After much inner conflict, she could only console herself. At least with looks like his, she wasn't exactly losing out. But Zhong Mingho seemed to have no such intentions, merely saying casually, "Wash up and get some sleep." Flustered, Qin Liyue stammered, thinking he was hinting at something more intimate. Zhong Mingho raised an eyebrow and shot her down instantly. "You think I'm going to sleep with you? Don't be silly, you're not worthy of my bed." Qin Liyue secretly rejoiced, so he knew this marriage was just for show. Testing the waters, she asked, "Then, when are you planning to divorce me?" Zhong Mingho's brows knitted slightly as he looked at her. "Divorce?" He let out a low chuckle. "Seems you still don't know who you've married." Before she could react, he pushed Qin Liyue onto the bed, his overpowering strength pinning her in place. It was the first time Qin Liyue had ever felt such close contact between a man and a woman, and she hadn't even managed to warn him. When in the next moment his lips claimed hers in a forceful, domineering kiss. The sudden intimacy was something Qin Liyue simply couldn't accept. She bit down hard, drawing blood from his lips. "Are you insane? Marriage or not, if I don't want it, you can't just do this." Zhong Mingho scoffed, clearly annoyed. "Like I'd even want to touch you. You've got 30 minutes. Get off my bed yourself." Strangely, his words made Qin Liyue breathe a sigh of relief. She had no idea what Zhong Mingho's true intentions were. Clutching a pair of scissors close to her chest, she lay down on the sofa, silently vowing, if he dares try anything, he's a dead man. But when Zhong Mingho came out of the shower, he didn't so much as glance at her. He simply collapsed onto the bed and was asleep within moments. Though relieved to have made it through the night unscathed, Qin Liyue couldn't help feeling a faint, inexplicable disappointment. Meanwhile, a long-forgotten memory played out in Zhong Mingho's dreams. Back in their youth, the two of them chased each other through the sunlight, laughing as Qin Liyue called out, "Zhong Mingho, come catch me." Back then he had been so naive, thinking that if he caught her they could be friends. But the scene suddenly shifted. Qin Liyue stopped, cheeks puffed in mock anger, and pointed at him. "If you dare follow me again, I'll strip your clothes off." Zhong Mingho jolted awake, his eyes clouded with complex emotions. He knew this woman could play the harmless innocent in public, yet in private she could cut down the CEO's wife, with biting sarcasm. And when the green tea type threw herself into his arms, the CEO accepted it, ignoring his own wife entirely. Qin Liyue had seen all of it. She lowered her gaze, mocking herself silently. "Wake up, you and he are only married in name. He only wed you to ward off misfortune for his simple-minded brother. Don't expect him to stand by your side." Stepping into the Zhong family was like plunging into a deep sea. Qin Liyue quickly realized that here she could only rely on herself. Ever since she unexpectedly married national heartthrob Zhong Mingho, she had become the thorn in every woman's side, especially her cousin and the Qin family, who hated her for stealing the man they believed should have been theirs. Her cousin even laid hands on her, threatening her to divorce Zhong Mingho immediately. From the very beginning, Qin Liyue had been nothing more than a puppet, forced into this marriage to save her kidnapped aunt. When the Qin couple realized intimidation wouldn't work, they switched to a softer approach, claiming they had already paid the ransom and rescued her aunt. With no reason left to stay and no feelings for Zhong Mingho to begin with, she had no objections to the divorce. She declared on the spot that she and her aunt would move out of the Qin household and sever all ties. Soon after, she saw her aunt kneeling before her mother's grave, tears streaming down her face in repentance. Qin Liyue couldn't understand why her aunt had fallen into such massive debt, especially when she had sacrificed herself by marrying into the Zhong family to save her. Her aunt admitted, full of regret, that she had been blinded by greed. Her aunt recalled that day, she had overheard the Qin couple talking about a promising stock. Hoping to earn enough to leave the Qin household, she invested, only to lose everything. Qin Liyue's eyes fell on her aunt's hand and she frowned. "Why wasn't your finger cut off?" Her aunt sighed and explained that it had only been her ring that was taken. In that moment, Qin Liyue pieced it together. This had all been a trap carefully set by the Qin couple, designed to force her into marrying the Zhong family's so-called fool, Zhong Mingze. They had traded her aunt's safe return for their own wealth and status, never expecting she would end up marrying Zhong Mingho instead. At the mention of Zhong Mingho's name, her aunt froze, then urgently urged her to stay in the Zhong family and absolutely refuse a divorce. She revealed that she had long suspected Liyue's parents' deaths were no accident. In just 2 short years, the Qin family had been nearly wiped out, and someone had to be pulling strings from the shadows. Back then, she had been powerless to investigate. But now it was different. The influence of a powerful family could accomplish what they never could on their own. Her words sent a shock through Qin Liyue. She realized she had been kept in the dark all along. For years, her aunt had been under the Qin couple's thumb, unable to speak out. Now that you are the young madam of the Zhong family, the chance for revenge is in your hands. Only by uncovering the truth can you clear your parents' names. At that moment, Qin Liyue's gaze hardened with newfound determination. Suddenly, the butler sent her a message instructing her to attend an evening banquet. She had been ready to refuse, but now that she'd made up her mind, there was no way she would miss it. She had expected a typical high society gathering, but from the moment she stepped inside, she was met with hostility at every turn. The green tea types subtly provoked her, while her domineering Xiao husband looked on with cold indifference. Qin Jiar even had the audacity to show up at the banquet Zhong Mingho himself was hosting, only to pour red wine over Qin Liyue's head in front of everyone. She then stood there with a lofty, dismissive air as if nothing had happened. Qin Liyue had never suffered such humiliation. She shot to her feet and lashed out at her on the spot. Their heated exchange quickly caught Zhong Mingho's attention. He was about to step in and defend her when another green tea, Mikur, blocked his way. "You're not seriously going to get angry over a woman brought in just to ward off misfortune, are you?" she asked sweetly. Putting on an act of concern, she added, "It's just a little quarrel between sisters. No need to get involved." Hearing this, Zhong Mingho merely gave a faint smile and chose to stay out of it. Then a crisp voice rang out from the crowd. "How ironic. The young madam of the Zhong family is being bullied and no one dares to say a word. Even if she comes from humble origins, she still entered the Zhong family through a proper, recognized marriage. For young Master Zhong to calmly watch others humiliate his wife, truly eye-opening." The speaker was Yan Xiaonua, the heiress of the Yan group, and Qin Liyue was genuinely surprised. She hadn't expected anyone to stand up for her. The distinguished guests immediately began murmuring among themselves, eager for a good show. Mikur drawled mockingly, Well, I thought it was someone important. Turns out it's Xiaonua. You came back to the country and didn't even tell me?" Yan Xiaonua snorted. "And who are you exactly? Some toad? Why would I need to report to you?" The jab left Mikur's face shifting between green and white, unable to recover her composure. Qin Liyue thought to herself, This Xiaonua must have some serious backing. Yet Zhong Mingho still wore the same amused expression, as if enjoying the spectacle rather than stepping in. At that moment Yan Xiaonua pointed at Qin Liyue and snapped, getting splashed by some stray dog and just yelling back. What's the point? You should strip her bare and see if her owner dares to let the dog off its leash again. The remark made the Qin family grit their teeth in fury. Mi Ke, catching the jab aimed her way, hurried to explain that she hadn't ordered anyone to pour the wine. Yan Xiaonua ignored her excuses entirely. Upon learning Qin Liyue's name she patted her chest and declared, Qin Liyue's my friend. Anyone who dares to make trouble for her will answer to me. Just then Zhong Mingho stepped up beside her saying lightly, Thank you Miss Yan for stepping in. Yan Xiaonua's face darkened. If you love her then love her fully. If you don't then let her go, she said coldly, going so far as to threaten that she'd take Qin Liyue away herself. Zhong Mingho only looked on with casual indifference, cementing his image as a heartless playboy in Yan Xiaonua's eyes. Meanwhile, on the other side of the room, Mi Ke was tearing into the Qin family. You can't even handle something this simple. What good are you? Without warning, she slapped one of them hard across the face. The Qin family member, seething but powerless, stammered that they hadn't known Yan Xiaonua would interfere, begging Mi Ke for another chance. Mi Ke ticked them away with a sharp, Get out. You nearly made me lose face in front of everyone. At that moment, Qin Liyue was in the dressing room, changing her clothes. Looking up, she saw Zhong Mingho push the door open and walk in. Her heart skipped a beat, panic rising in her chest. Zhong Mingho closed the distance between them, forcing her back until she was pressed against the window. Tilting her chin up with one hand, his gaze sharpened. Why did you marry my brother? What are you after? Qin Liyue, unwilling to explain, turned to leave. A glint of cunning flashed in Zhong Mingho's eyes as he stepped on the hem of her dress. She stumbled, nearly falling to the floor. In an instant he caught her, pulling her firmly into his arms. The close contact made Qin Liyue's cheeks flush crimson, a wave of shyness washing over her. Unfortunately, the scene was witnessed by none other than the green tea herself, Mi Ke. Not wanting to create more trouble, Qin Liyue lowered herself to offer a quick apology before hurrying away. Mi Ke's eyes burned with resentment. She silently vowed to make sure they divorced. Putting on an air of intimacy, she returned to Zhong Mingho's side. But inside, Zhong Mingho was quietly triumphant. Qin Liyue, the more you try to pull away, the more I'll keep you chained to me. Meanwhile, Qin Liyue sulked alone in the back garden. From the path ahead, a tall man with elegant features and striking white hair approached. It was Yan Xiaonua's elder brother, Yan Chen. Qin Liyue quickly expressed her gratitude for Yan Xiaonua stepping in on her behalf earlier that day. Qin Liyue's polite exchange with Yan Chen happened to be spotted by Zhong Mingho. Mi Ke, ever the opportunist, seized the chance to fan the flames, suggesting with feigned concern that he shouldn't disturb them. In her mind, that would make Zhong Mingho hers alone. He replied with a casual no need, yet his feet carried him straight toward them. Without hesitation he took Qin Liyue by the arm, saying they were going home. She felt the firm grip on her shoulder and couldn't help but wonder, what is this man's problem? One moment he's cozy with a green tea, the next he's jealous over her. Hiding behind the trees, Mi Ke's heart shattered into pieces at the sight. As expected of a top-tier heir, Zhong Mingho's presence and display of wealth were enough to make Qin Liyue gasp. Wow. He instructed his staff to prepare a lavish meal. Qin Liyue had planned to maintain her composure and pretend she wasn't hungry. But she ended up eating faster and more than anyone else, prompting Zhong Mingho to tease. If you can eat my family into poverty, I'll admit you've got talent. Qin Liyue cautiously tested the waters. This estate is huge. Can't we have separate rooms? Zhong Mingho replied bluntly, the entire place is filled with my grandmother's people. Separate rooms? Not happening. Her heart skipped. Was this going to turn into the real thing? Zhong Mingho pressed her again about her true reason for marrying into the Zhong family. Under his relentless gaze, Qin Liyue finally told the truth. I just want to find the one who murdered my parents and bring them to justice. Once I do, I'll leave with nothing. I won't take a single cent from the Zhong family. Realizing she wasn't a shallow gold digger, Zhong Mingho finally eased his suspicion. I'll give you full access to the Zhong family's resources. Use whatever you need to find the killer. But Qin Luyue wasn't swayed. While he slept, she quietly took her blanket and went to the sofa. Though he agreed to help her investigate, he set his own condition. Within 1 year she had to fulfill all her duties as his wife. He even declared confidently, "By then you'll be madly in love with me." What if he really tries to? The thought alone sent scandalous images flashing through Qin Liyue's mind. Determined not to let Zhong Mingho get the upper hand, she made 3 strict rules for herself. First, never be swayed by that ridiculously handsome face. Second, never let proximity make her heart race. Third, repeat rules 1 and 2. She had to admit this rich young master knew how to play games. Just then the sleeping Zhong Mingho cracked his eyes open. Seeing that she had no intention of sharing his bed, a wave of irritation rose in him and he walked over to her. A sly, wolfish smile curled at his lips. The next morning, Qin Luyue felt unusually well rested. Her back didn't ache, her legs weren't sore, and even her hemorrhoids felt miraculously cured. Zhong Mingho, feigning innocence, asked, "Isn't this my bed? Weren't you sleeping on the sofa? How'd you end up here?" Qin Luyue blinked in confusion, hurriedly denying it. There was no way she'd do something like that. Face flushing, she bolted from the room. Watching her retreat, Zhong Mingho's mood soared. Because of the wedding, Qin Luyue hadn't worked for days. If she didn't start earning soon, her aunt would be out on the streets. So she set up a stall right outside the Zhong estate, selling black cards. Just then, Zhong Mingho's assistant handed Qin Luyue an invitation from the Yen family. She thought to herself, she still hadn't properly thanked young Master Yen for stepping in to help her last time. This was the perfect chance and she couldn't help feeling a bit excited. But when she learned the Yen estate was 50 kilometers away, her jaw nearly dropped. Taking a taxi there would cost hundreds. The assistant simply smiled and waved her over, leading her to the Zhong family's luxury garage. Faced with a dazzling lineup of high-end cars, Qin Luyue hesitated at first, feeling embarrassed to drive one. The very next second she was sighing in delight. Sports cars really were a different league. That day she returned to work at the company. Holding the near-perfect advertising proposal in her hands, she finally felt relieved. At least the rent problem was solved. But suddenly a woman slammed into her. Fate was cruel. Of all people, it was her scumbag ex-boyfriend Chen Gao's mistress. With a disdainful look, the green tea sneered, "An old hen that never lays eggs. What right do you have to compete with me for my man?" Qin Luyue had had enough. "You're just a mistress who stole someone else's boyfriend, yet you dare to act so tough? Didn't 9 years of compulsory education teach you the meaning of the word manners?" The onlookers around them were eating up the drama. An ex and a current girlfriend in the same company? This is straight out of a soap opera. The green tea made no effort to hide her arrogance, declaring that she would take every Zhong family project in Qin Liyue's hands, simply because the department director was her cousin. Leaning in close to her ear, she whispered smugly, "Remember this, your projects and your man, I'm taking them all." With that, she swayed her hips and strutted away like a victor. Qin Liyue's fists clenched tightly, her whole body trembling with anger. Back in the luxury car, she slammed the steering wheel in frustration. She couldn't believe she'd fallen into this green tea trap a second time. In the middle of her frustration, she suddenly remembered. Yan Xiaono's banquet was tonight. Buying a gown now was impossible, but luckily, her assistant had told her the car was stocked with several outfits. When she opened the trunk, her eyes were instantly blinded by the sight. A whole stash of luxury goods, enough to fill a street stall. Tears of poverty welled up in her eyes. So this is the wicked world of the rich? I like it. Meanwhile, Yan Xiaonoa was at home picking out her dress, looking adorable and eye-catching. When she heard Qin Luyue was coming, she could barely contain her excitement. At that moment, Qin Luyue looked as if she'd just stepped out of a top-tier beauty clinic in Korea. So breathtaking that even in my so-called peak beauty days, I'd have had to step aside. Yan Xiaonoa rushed forward, wrapping her in a warm, enthusiastic hug. She then clasped Qin Liyue's hand, eager to introduce her to the family elders. Qin Liyue's smile was bright, her heart full of gratitude. Meanwhile, Zhong Mingho noticed she was gone, and his expression darkened instantly. She had gone to the Yen estate without telling him. A sharp thought crossed his mind. She must be meeting that pretty boy she'd been with in the back garden. Xiao Xiao, get the car. We're going to the Yen family. I want to see if she dares to flirt with another man right in front of me. At the banquet, Yen Chen, the eldest young master of the Yen family, had the entire hall's attention as he proudly introduced his sister, recently returned from abroad, Yen Xiaonua. To everyone's surprise, Yen Xiaonua emerged arm in arm with none other than Qin Liyue, the pair's entrance stunning the entire room. The moment Qin Liyue appeared, the socialites and elites looked at her with open disdain, convinced she had schemed her way into the Zhong family. Yen Xiaonua, however, ignored the whispers entirely and stepped forward. Today I want to introduce you all to a dear friend of mine. She is the beautiful, kind, and adorable Qin Liyue. From now on, anyone who bullies her is picking a fight with me. The fair-weather crowd immediately began plotting how to cozy up to Qin Liyue. She covered her mouth, eyes glistening with tears. Yen Xiaonua was helping her blend into this circle. With her support, finding the truth about her parents' deaths would be so much easier. Suddenly, Yen Xiaonua spun around, hugging her tightly. I'll protect you from now on. Leave Zhong Mingho and marry me instead. How about it? Qin Liyue, in her innocence, replied, I like you too. Yen Xiaonua was instantly smitten and pulled her off to drink with her. Even after getting tipsy, she still reminded her, leave that scumbag Zhong Mingho. Just then Zhong Mingho arrived. Qin Liyue wasn't naive enough to think he had come especially for her. But suddenly he pulled her firmly into his arms and said in a low, commanding voice, You've had too much to drink. Come on, we're going home. Yen Xiaonua rose slowly to her feet, her sharp gaze locking onto him. I don't recall inviting you tonight. Did you get my permission? Don't push your luck. Zhong Mingho didn't give her an ounce of face. Smiling faintly, he said to Qin Liyue, She's my legal wife. Do I need to get the approval of a little brat like you to take her home? Ever since he had taken Qin Liyue from Yen Xiaonua, something in his feelings toward her had shifted. That night, on the way home, the two remained silent, but the air between them felt different. Thanks to the help of the driver, Qin Liyue lost her balance and fell into Zhong Mingho's arms. That close skin-to-skin contact sent an unexpected ripple through both of their hearts. Early in the morning, Zhong Mingho was already awake, gazing at the sleeping Qin Liyue with a love-struck expression. Taking advantage of the quiet, he playfully reached out to squeeze her soft, chubby cheeks. Last night's stolen kiss clearly hadn't satisfied him. Since she was still asleep, why not sneak in another? Qin Liyue let out a faint, sleepy hum, startling him into pulling back like a guilty puppy caught red-handed. Just then, Qin Liyue's eyes fluttered open. She covered her face in embarrassment. Oh no, how had she ended up in his bed again? Little did she know, Zhong Mingho was grinning to himself with his back turned. She tried to slip out quietly, but his voice stopped her cold. Well, which little kitten climbed into my bed again? Qin Liyue gave an awkward laugh. What's this? You spent all night touching every inch of me and now you want to run after taking advantage? He teased. The words sent the innocent Qin Liyue fleeing in embarrassment. Watching her retreat, Zhong Mingho's heart swelled with delight. Qin Liyue skipped breakfast and hurried straight to work. Out of nowhere, a luxury car sped past, splashing dirty water all over her. She frowned and muttered, Seriously? Can't you see there's someone standing here? The car stopped and out stepped her ex, Qin Gao, with a smug smirk. Liyue, we've broken up. What's this all about? Don't tell me you still have feelings for me. Just seeing him with that woman made Qin Liyue feel sick. Beside him, the green tea schemer Wang Lan seized the chance to flaunt. See this? My man bought it for me. Latest limited edition supercar. Someone like you could never afford it in your lifetime. Qin Liyue's face remained indifferent, though inwardly she scoffed. What on earth had she been thinking to ever like this freeloading pretty boy? Wang Lan, looking triumphant, was already plotting to have Qin Gao be her date at the company's annual gala, just to humiliate Qin Liyue in public. At that moment, a colleague approached with a cheerful smile. Liyue, the year-end party's coming up. Have you picked a date yet? If not, there's a fine, you know. Her heart sank. She was short on cash and couldn't afford to pay a penalty. But with so little time left, who could she possibly ask? Thinking it over, the only man that came to mind was Zhong Mingho. She frowned at the thought. Was she really going to swallow her pride and ask that infuriating man? If she did, she'd never hear the end of it. After a long internal struggle, she decided to drop the idea. The Zhong family project had once been snatched from Qin Liyue's hands, and now that it had gone south, her manager cousin had the nerve to lash out at her. Putting on a pitiful act, the woman washed her hands of it entirely, even pinning the blame on Qin Liyue, a textbook case of the good get bullied. This time Qin Liyue wasn't having it. She sneered, "Weren't you the one bragging? Now that the project's blown up, you dump the blame on me? I seriously wonder how someone like you even got into this company." The so-called green tea still tried to save face. "I got in here on my own merit." Liyue fired back without mercy in front of the manager. "Then clean up your own mess instead of throwing it at others, unless you want me to lose even more respect for you." The woman was left speechless and the manager's expression began to shift. In the end, she stormed out of the meeting room humiliated. The onlookers couldn't help but whisper how satisfying it was to watch. Knowing the green tea cousin couldn't possibly salvage the project, the manager turned to Qin Liyue, promising her a 30% commission if she was willing to fix it. Qin Liyue knew better than to agree so easily. Give them an inch now and they'd be back to trample her again. Just then her aunt called, urging her to come home at once. Qin Guomin and his wife were there, trying to take her late parents' belongings. The moment she arrived, Qin's mother sneered sarcastically, well, if it isn't the young madam. How gracious of you to pay us a visit." Her aunt hurried over, shoving a vase into her arms and whispering, "Hide this antique before they take it." Liyue frowned, baffled. "We already settled everything. Why are you still here trying to take my family's things?" Qin's mother pulled out an old IOU with a smirk. "This proves your aunt borrowed money from us 10 years ago." Her aunt admitted with deep shame that she'd once borrowed 100,000 yuan in a moment of desperation, never expecting they'd use it now to force Liyue into a divorce. Determined to uncover the truth behind her parents' deaths, Liyue stood her ground. "Do you take me for livestock to be slaughtered at will? Don't push me too far." Her defiance caught them off guard. After all, they still had to think twice before crossing the Zhong family's young madam. To make them leave, Qin Liyue gritted her teeth and promised to repay the money by the end of the month. Once they were gone, she immediately called the director. "I'll take the project, but I want my mid-year bonus paid in advance." She vowed to herself. She was no longer anyone's pushover and from now on she would bow to no one. After work, she planned to soak in a hot bath and get some sleep. But the moment she thought about sleeping, her head began to buzz. To stop herself from sleepwalking into that pervert's bed again, she decided to wrap herself up with bandages. That's when Zhong Mingho suddenly appeared behind her. "What are you doing?" Startled, she stammered, unable to form a proper answer. In her panic, she lost her balance and fell, the white bandages wrapping tightly around her like they had a mind of their own. The sight almost made Zhong Mingho's nose bleed. Was this woman trying to seduce him? Forcing himself to stay calm, he told himself it was nothing. Just a minor scene. The next moment nearly made Zhong Mingho drool. If she was going to be this forward, then maybe lending her a hand wouldn't be so bad. Qin Liyue panicked, rushing to explain, but the more she moved, the tighter the bandages wrapped around her, leaving her completely stuck. The room went dead silent and the hot-blooded Zhong Mingho finally lost control. He lunged at her with a smirk. "Didn't know you were into this kind of heavy stuff." Liyue tried to protest but he cut her off. "Oh, if that's not what you meant, then maybe I should give it some meaning." Before she could react, his lips claimed hers in a domineering kiss. She shoved him away hard. "Pervert! What the hell are you doing?" That snapped him back to reality. He'd almost taken it even further. Quickly pulling himself together, he shot back. "I should be asking you, dressed like this, do you think it's appropriate? Girls should be a little more reserved." Without waiting for a reply, he turned away under the excuse of handling his nosebleed. Liyue glared after him. What a shameless man, taking advantage and then pretending to be all proper. Zhong Mingho felt as if he'd just tasted honey. This girl was unexpectedly sweet. That night, he worked in the study until the early hours before heading back to his room. The moment he walked in, he found Liyue wrapped up tight like a mummy. His mood soured instantly. "Seriously? All wrapped up like I'm some kind of predator? Who in their right mind would want to share a bed with her?" He refused to believe he couldn't sleep alone. But reality had other plans. Watching her sleep like the dead, irritation bubbled up in him. If she didn't want to share a bed, then he'd make sure she couldn't avoid it. The next morning, Liu stretched lazily, thinking smugly, all tied up like this, there's no way I could have sleepwalked into his bed again. But when she opened her eyes, she froze. It was the third time she'd woken up right next to that shameless man. Zhong Mingho smirked. You really know how to play, huh? First you tie yourself up to tempt me, then you sneak into my bed in the middle of the night. Are you trying to test my self-control? Liu wanted nothing more than to disappear into the floor. This time, there was no talking her way out of it. Zhong Mingho changed clothes in front of her without the slightest embarrassment. I'm heading overseas for a few days. I heard your company's annual party is coming up and I just happened to be free then, so how about? Before he could finish, Liu cut in. Relax. I definitely won't trouble you. His jaw tightened. Seriously? How dense can this woman be? I practically spelled it out for her. Liu, on the other hand, thought there must be something wrong with him. Still, the thought of having the whole place to herself instantly put her in a great mood. As soon as Zhong Mingho left, he invited Yan Xiaonhua out for some fun at the amusement park. What he didn't expect was to run into Qin Gao and that green tea snake, Liu Yue's scumbag ex and his mistress. Overhearing their conversation, Xiaonhua realized who they were. Being the proud, sharp-tongued type, she wasn't about to let them off easy. Just then Liu returned with drinks and ran straight into them. She muttered, "Great, these lunatics again. Like a pair of bad pennies." Every time those two saw Liu, they came alive, spitting venom and twisting the story so much that anyone listening would think she was the one who cheated. Liu chose not to stoop to their level and turned to leave, but Yan Xiaonhua had already lost her patience. She pointed straight at the pair and let loose. You two are unbelievable. Cheating and then playing the victim? Scumbag, have some self-awareness. Cutting in line is bad enough, but you just have to spew garbage every time you open your mouth. And you, of all the things you could be, you chose to be the homewrecker? Aren't you ashamed? The onlookers erupted in applause. This was a full-on live, tear the cheater apart moment, and it was glorious. Qin Gao's face twisted in rage. Whose brat are you? Shut it. This is grown-up business. Stay out of it. Before he could say more, Xiaonhua snatched the water cup from Liu Yue's hand. Without hesitation, she splashed it right in his face. Shameless piece of trash. Honestly, this girl was fearless. If there was trouble, she dove right in. The crowd eagerly whipped out their phones, ready to post the drama online for the world to see. Xiaonhua turned to Liu with a sly grin. So, you still don't have a date for the annual party, do you? Liu froze, fumbling for words. Relax, I've got this. If you want to steal the spotlight and walk in like a queen, then there's only one choice. My second brother, Yan Qin. Liu really couldn't bring herself to say no, but just imagining taking Yan Qin to the party made her think, wouldn't that crazy CEO husband of hers lose his mind? Far away on a business trip, Zhong Mingho sneezed non-stop, an ominous feeling creeping over him. Pointing at the butler beside him, he grumbled, the landscaping here is too much. All this green, it's making me uneasy. Without another word, he started packing. If he didn't get back now, his wife might just run off with someone else. The moment he stepped through the door, he headed straight for the bedroom. There she was, Liu, sleeping soundly as if the world outside didn't exist. Mingho frowned. He told her he'd be away, so why was she still obediently sleeping on the sofa? He reached out, pinching her cheek and brushing against her skin as if making sure she was real. Seriously, Mingho, can you stop stealing kisses when she's asleep? You're the definition of a shy, repressed man. The guy couldn't sleep without his wife next to him, yet in the daytime he insisted she take the sofa, only to sneak her back into bed in the middle of the night. Talk about pride over comfort. But play with fire long enough and you'll get burned. That night, just as he carried her to bed again, Liu Yue's eyes flew open and she shrieked, "What kind of toad are you?" When she realized it was Mingho, she froze, thinking she must have sleepwalked again. Without a word, Zhong Mingho scooped her up and tossed her back onto the sofa. With a dead serious face, he said, "Oh, you're one to talk? Climbing into my bed again. I didn't even have a place to sleep." His ridiculous excuse left Liu completely baffled. Hugging the sofa pillow, she noticed it was warm, yet she was sure she'd been sleeping here the whole time. Nearly caught red-handed, Mingho retreated to the bathroom, leaning against the door, heart pounding wildly. Patting his chest, he muttered to himself, "What am I panicking for? She's my wife. Sleeping together isn't weird." As the night deepened, they each stayed in their own spot. She slept like a baby. He tossed and turned, unable to drift off, unless of course he was holding her. Determined to get some decent rest, he dragged her entire sofa right next to his bed with great effort. They weren't technically sharing a bed, but the gap between them was practically non-existent. In his mind, that didn't count as crossing a line. He stretched out his arm, waiting patiently for her to roll over into it. This man's schemes really knew no bounds. The moment Liyue opened her eyes that morning, the first thing she saw was Zhong Mingho's ridiculously handsome face. She jolted upright in shock. Wait, did I crawl into his bed again? Don't tell me I subconsciously crave his looks. Glancing down and seeing she was still on the sofa, she finally breathed a little easier. But then it hit her, hold on, did I actually sleepwalk and move the furniture too? After pushing the sofa back into place, she collapsed like she'd just fought a war. Just then, a major announcement popped up in the company group chat. This year's annual gala would feature a VIP guest, Mi-Ke. Liyue was stunned. Of all people, it had to be the infamous queen of fake innocence from the upper-class circle. To make matters worse, the notice was bold and underlined. Bring a male partner or kiss your year-end bonus goodbye. She choked so hard on her water she almost died right there. Mingho, who had clearly been eavesdropping, smirked inwardly. Who else could be your date if not me? 10 minutes later, Zhong Mingho was already simmering with irritation. What's taking her so long to beg me to be her date? This woman is hopeless. Fed up, he deliberately played a voice message from Mi-Ke. Brother, are you free this Friday? I need a date for a banquet. He even pretended to reply casually. Friday? Sure. I'll let you know when the time comes. That little performance left Liyue with a faint pang of disappointment. If I end up bumping into them with Yen Ershao, I might as well resign now. Thinking she still didn't have a partner, Mingho kindly suggested his own driver, Xiao Zhao. Liyue rolled her eyes. You take Mi-Ke, I'll take Yen Ershao. Later, when he found out her date was actually Yen Chen, Mingho was convinced it was Yen Xiaonua's doing. Do whatever it takes to keep Yen Chen from showing up. On the night of the gala, Yen Chen's company suddenly ran into trouble, forcing him to cancel last minute. Liyue was stunned. At such a critical moment, who else could she possibly rely on? All she could do was grit her teeth and face whatever came her way. A coworker spotted her alone and couldn't help but ask, "You came by yourself? Don't tell me you don't have a date." Before Liyue could respond, that shameless couple popped out of nowhere. With fake sympathy dripping from their voices, they sneered, "Oh my, who's this poor soul? No date at the company gala? Guess your bonus is toast." Come on, Qin Liyue. So what if you're the company's star planner? This year's gala could make or break a major partnership. If you embarrass us, you'd better pray for your own future. Liyue didn't even blink. She'd long since learned to treat this kind of sniping like a stray dog barking. The gala officially began with the boss and his wife on stage boasting, "Bring a date and you too can find happiness like ours." Amid loud applause, Mi-Ke made her entrance in killer heels, smiling sweetly. "Now let's dance the night away." In the crowd, Wang Lan deliberately raised her voice, aiming a jab straight at Liyue. The executives finally noticed. Liyue had indeed shown up alone. Wang Lan fanned the flames and the gossipers piled on with their snide remarks. Sensing her moment, Mi-Ke's smile turned syrupy. "Didn't you just marry young Master Zhong? Why are you all by yourself?" Her tone sharpened. "It's your company's culture to show up with a date. Or are you trying to challenge your boss's authority?" Alone and outnumbered, Liyue swallowed her anger, forcing herself to stay composed. The boss seized the moment to pile on. "This gala is meant to bring joy to my wife. If you don't have a date, take the night off. Leave now, you're not welcome here." The two green tea schemers smirked, their smug expressions plain for all to see. Just as everyone was ready to watch her humiliation, a deep, confident voice rang out from the doorway. "Who said she doesn't have a date?" All heads turned. Zhong Mingho strode in, sharp in a tailored suit, his presence commanding the room. His timing was impeccable. Naive as she was, Liyue had no idea this was calculated. Her heart simply swelled with sudden, overwhelming relief. Mi-Ke instantly hurried toward him, making Liyue's stomach sink. "So, I really was imagining things. But Zhong Mingho's gaze was icy. "Me Kerr, you've misunderstood. I agreed to attend the gala, but I never said I'd be your dance partner." Then he turned to Liwei, taking her hand with a warmth that stunned her. "Sorry to keep you waiting, my love." The sweet words hit her like a sneak attack, too much for her unguarded heart to resist. Orphaned from a young age, Liwei had never felt the rare, steady warmth of someone standing firmly by her side. Under the dazzling lights, the two began to dance, like a scene pulled straight from a fairy tale. Still, a small voice in her mind wondered, why was the man who usually spoke to her so cold suddenly being this gentle? But in that moment, her defenses had already fallen. When the dance ended, she couldn't help but ask, "Didn't you promise me Kerr you'd be her date?" Zhong Mingho said it as if it were obvious. "If I'd been her date, you'd probably cry yourself to sleep tonight." He stepped closer, voice low. "I did save you today. Don't you think you owe me a thank you?" So that's what this cunning Xiao was after. Liu's heart thudded wildly as she asked, "Then, what kind of thank you do you want?" He only curved his lips into a sly smile. "I'll be looking forward to it." The deliberate pause left her imagination running wild. Only then did she realize she had nothing now. Nothing to give him, except herself. Her cheeks flushed hot. Was he talking about that? The memory of him shielding her at the gala flashed in her mind and her thoughts spiraled. He's so handsome and rich, even if it's that, maybe it wouldn't be such a loss. Lost in her fantasies, she jolted when Zhong Mingho suddenly pushed the door open. He walked toward her slowly. Liwei stammered, "Don't," even as her body betrayed her, edging back. Zhong Mingho's gaze held hers as he said lightly, "Just bringing you your pajamas." Liwei let out a small breath of relief, though deep down she couldn't deny a twinge of disappointment. Zhong Mingho, of course, had already read her like an open book. Then out of nowhere her ankle gave way, and she stumbled straight into his arms. Something soft brushed against him. Her lips. The unexpected kiss made both their hearts skip a beat. Sorry," she whispered, quickly pulling back. The man, ever the subtle flirt, smirked inwardly. "So this is your way of saying thanks? Playing hard to get him?" In the next moment he stepped in, caging her against the wall. She thought about pushing him away, but her body refused to move. And then she was lost, completely swept away by his domineering, searing kiss. His voice was a low rumble at her ear. "My little wife, taking advantage and trying to run? Or even now? As for your thank you, rest well tonight. Tomorrow, give yourself to me." The words made her heart flutter wildly. Give myself to him? Just the thought made her cheeks burn. One dared to tease, the other dared to imagine, both tangled in a world that belonged to no one else but them. That day, Zhong Mingho decided the time was right and brought Liwei to visit his grandmother. But instead of a warm welcome, the old lady's expression hardened. She scolded them for not having any movement in Liu Yue's belly and even hinted she regretted letting Zhong Mingho marry her in his younger brother's place. Still, she had to admit, ever since Liwei entered the Zhong family, Mingho's younger brother, Zhong Mingze, hadn't suffered an episode in a long while. But a grandmother who only cared about holding her great-grandchild had no patience for Mingho's attempts at flattery. Her voice was firm, leaving no room for argument. "If Liwei isn't pregnant with the Zhong family's child within a year, you'll divorce her." Mingho dared not disobey, but frustration gnawed at him. If he'd known this would happen, he'd have claimed her last night. Meanwhile, Liwei wandered through the sprawling Zhong estate like a curious traveler, taking in the scenery as if it were a hidden paradise. Then a cheerful "sister" rang out from behind, making her freeze. Since when did Zhong Mingho speak so gently and call her that? She turned, only to be met by an innocent, boyish smile. In that instant she knew this was no cold, calculating Xiao. This was Zhong Mingze, his younger brother, the man she was originally meant to marry. Mingze stepped closer, his tone warm and open. "Sister, if you like it here, then we're good friends. I like you. Will you come often?" Liwei couldn't help thinking he wasn't as foolish as the rumors claimed. In fact, he was just an innocent boy at heart. So she played along, smiling. "I'll come often. I like you too." The butler, however, looked alarmed, struggling to coax Zhong Mingze back to his room. Inwardly, Liwei sighed, same face yet a completely different feeling. If only Zhong Mingho could be this gentle. Just then, a maid approached her quietly. It's best not to get too close to the second young master. If he remembers what happened 18 years ago, he could lose control. Luiwei decided she didn't need to know more. In a family like this, curiosity was dangerous. On the way back, Zhong Mingho did something rare. He offered comfort. You don't have to be so tense around Grandma. I'll shield you from her. She blinked in surprise. So he could be considerate? Maybe she had misjudged him. Then he leaned in, voice low and deliberate. After all I've done for you, don't you think you owe me some gratitude? In broad daylight, his words made her cheeks burn. She looked away. Fine. Come with me somewhere. Soon the two arrived at the Zhong family's private beach. Watching the glittering waves, memories stirred in Mingho's mind. Back then, this was where he and his brother loved to play the most. Ever since the incident 18 years ago, his younger brother had never set foot here again. Now everything had changed. Those carefree days between brothers were nothing but a misty memory. Luiwei couldn't help but wonder, what exactly had happened back then to turn this beach into forbidden ground? Maybe he was the one who carried the deepest wound. The thought made her step forward instinctively, wrapping her arms around Zhong Mingho. Maybe he wasn't so unbearable after all. He let out a sly smirk. So this is your idea of saying thanks? Her gaze softened. My aunt used to say, if someone wants to cry, a hug might make it better. He tapped her forehead lightly, smiling with a warmth that caught her off guard. I'm not as easy to comfort as you are, but if this is your way of trying, I'd say it worked. Their eyes locked, neither willing to look away. The longer he looked, the more he found her irresistible. Slowly, almost against his own will, he leaned closer to her lips. She wanted to resist, but her body wouldn't listen, her heartbeat spinning out of control. With the sea breeze curling around them, the salty air carried them deeper into each other's presence, until nothing else existed. Yesterday he barely acknowledged Luiwei. Today he acted like she was out of his league. This scumbag ex had once sneered at her modest life, choosing instead to cheat. Now, seeing her shine brighter than ever while his sweet girlfriend grew more unbearable by the day, regret was written all over his face. Typical, jerks never change. Shamelessly, he came begging to get her back, putting on a pitiful act. He claimed his cheating was forced, and swore that Luiwei was the only woman he had ever truly loved. He even blamed their breakup on his current girlfriend, Wang Lan, and vowed he would never marry her, desperately trying to prove his so-called loyalty. Luiwei wasn't buying it. She yanked her hand free and shot back coldly, whatever's going on between you and her has nothing to do with me. Don't ever bother me again. She turned to leave, but he suddenly grabbed her, twisting her ankle with a sharp crack that made her hiss in pain. Qingao, this is a company, not your house, and definitely not your playground. Show some respect. She shoved his hand away once more. Around them, co-workers whispered in disgust. How shameless, clinging to an ex after a breakup. Turns out, the receptionist had just blasted a message in the company group chat. Liu's scumbag ex was trying to crawl back. Meanwhile, Wang Lan, clueless about the truth, assumed Luiwei was chasing after Qingao and loudly promised to teach her a lesson. She stormed over, jabbing a finger at Luiwei. You've got some nerve. Trying to seduce my Gao again. She raised her hand, ready to slap her across the face. Just as the slap was about to land, a hand shot out and caught Wang Lan's wrist. It was Yan Xiaonhua, her voice like ice. Touch a single hair on Liu's head and I'll make sure you regret it. Determined to protect Luiwei, Yan Xiaonhua had arranged through her family to work in the same company, ready to step in whenever needed. Wang Lan instantly froze. She knew the Yan family was way out of her league. Without another word, she grabbed Qingao by the ear and scurried off. Yan Xiaonhua started to go after them, but Luiwei caught her arm and shook her head. They shared a smile and hugged tightly. Inside, Yan Xiaonhua made a silent vow. She would steal Luiwei away from Zhong Mingho no matter what. Meanwhile, in his office, Zhong Mingho listened to his assistant's report about Luiwei being harassed. His palm slammed down on the desk, his face dark as thunder. Looks like some people need to be taught a lesson, he said coldly. Out in the parking lot, Qingao sulked, thinking if I'd known Luiwei was this sought after, I never would have wasted my time on that green tea Wang Lan. But before he could even unlock his car, he realized the remote wasn't working. Looking up, he saw his vehicle smashed beyond recognition. While Qingao was still cursing his luck, a group of men in black appeared silently behind him. Before he could even turn around, a sack was thrown over his head. A heavy punch landed squarely, followed by a ruthless low blow that made him howl in agony. As they left, one of the men tossed something at him. "Here's your medical bill. Next time you mess with our boss's woman, you won't be breathing." Qin Gao, now swollen beyond recognition, stammered, "I won't. I swear I won't," though inside he seethed. He had no idea what connection Li Wei had with this so-called boss, and the beating felt like it came out of nowhere. Meanwhile, Zhong Mingho arrived at Liu Yue's company. Without warning and in full view of the office, he scooped her up into his arms. "I'm here to take you home." Liu Yue's face flushed instantly. "Put me down. Everyone's watching," she whispered urgently, but Zhong Mingho was utterly unfazed by the stares. Under the envious and jealous gazes of her co-workers, she was carried right out of the building, wishing she could sink into the floor. "This man is an unpredictable rogue," she thought, "always finding excuses to take advantage of me." On the way, Zhong Mingho leaned close and ordered in a low voice, "Stop calling me Mr. Zhong. Use my name." Liu Yue shyly murmured her agreement, turning toward the car window, her cheeks tinged pink. Zhong Mingho still refused to admit even to himself that he'd fallen for her, repeating in his mind that marrying her was nothing more than revenge. Once they got home, he immediately knelt down and took hold of her injured foot. "What else would I be doing? I'm putting medicine on it. Just bear with it for a moment," he said, his voice firm yet unexpectedly gentle. "Ah." She gasped as the antiseptic touched her skin. "No." The sudden, breathy cry hung in the air, turning the moment unbearably intimate. Before she could explain, his fingers laced tightly with hers. Their breaths mingled, heartbeats pounding in sync as they stared into each other's eyes. He gave a low chuckle. "They say kissing takes the pain away. Want to test the theory?" Seeing her flustered, torn between resisting and giving in, he knew his charms were working. Without another word, he scooped her into his arms. "Tonight," he declared, "you're sleeping in my bed." Liu Yue's heart was in chaos. She was about to refuse when Zhong Mingho cut in. "If you sleep on the couch and end up crawling into my bed in the middle of the night, your injury will only get worse." Innocently, she asked, "Then if I take the bed, where will you sleep?" Realizing how that sounded, she quickly added with forced composure, "I'll just sleep in the guest room instead." His lips curved into a mischievous smile. "Don't worry, I'll make sure to protect myself." The remark made her blush to her ears. Shouldn't she be the one who needed protecting? As night fell, she drifted off in his arms, sleeping more soundly than ever. Zhong Mingho inhaled the soft scent of her hair, quietly savoring the moment as they spent the night nestled together. The next day at the office, Yan Xiaonhua was still fussing over her injury. Right then, the ever-annoying Wang Lan appeared again, sneering, "Making such a fuss over a tiny injury, anyone would think you'd been in a car crash." Yan Xiaonhua shot back with an icy smile, "Keep that snide tone up and I'll make sure you find out exactly what a broken bone feels like." Wang Lan instantly shut her mouth. Liu Wei added calmly, "This is my private office. If you have nothing else to say, please leave." Wang Lan, looking smug, slammed an ornate invitation onto the desk. "Gao and I are getting married. I hope you'll come and witness our happiest moment." Her smile turned razor sharp. "If you can't afford a gift, that's fine. I don't care about your pocket change. Just make sure you have the guts to show up." Liu Wei had never been humiliated like this before. She wasn't the one who'd done anything shameful. This was pure, brazen provocation. Lifting her gaze, she replied firmly, "Don't worry, I'll be there. And I hope you two shameless lovebirds stop ruining other people's lives." Wang Lan scoffed. "When you see Gao holding me and making his vows, don't start crying." Liu Wei only smiled faintly. She didn't take the taunt seriously. If Wang Lan wanted to humiliate her, she'd just have to wait for her own downfall. After work, Liu Wei accompanied her aunt to Qin Guoming's house. The moment they stepped in, they were met with the Qin family's bitter, condescending voices. "Pay up. If you don't have the money, use that vase your parents left behind to settle the debt." Liu Wei immediately shielded her aunt and shot back coldly, "The repayment deadline isn't here yet. What's the rush?" The Qin family's faces twisted into something ugly. "I want the money now. Either hand over the vase or divorce Zhong Mingho." "What? Not convinced? Then throw some money at me." Before the words had even faded, A thick wad of cash smacked her square in the face. As you wish. Here's your money. We're even. But Mrs. Chin wasn't done. And what about all the other debts your family owed us over the years? Liu Yue's voice turned icy. When my mother was alive, she helped your family more times than I can count. Don't think you can use some made-up debt to steal what my parents left me. I've had enough of being bullied under your roof all these years. Enraged, the Chin women lunged at her, each grabbing a handful of Liu Yue's hair, shrieking, "Stealing my Mingho? Why don't you just die like your parents did?" Her aunt, heartbroken and furious, snapped. "Shut your filthy mouths. The ones who should die are you." With a resounding slap, she struck Mrs. Chin across the face. Seeing his daughter crumple to the floor, Chin Guoming roared, "One more word and I'll have you locked in a mental hospital." Her aunt sneered, unfazed. "Oh, I can be crazier than that. Want to hear?" Then she screamed at the top of her lungs, "It was you who killed my brother and sister-in-law." Chin Guomin broke out in a cold sweat and snapped, "You have no proof, don't slander me. Their deaths have nothing to do with me." The couple echoed each other, clearly guilty. Chin's mother shoved money into Chin Liu Yue's hands, trying to drive her away. Her aunt collapsed to the ground, clutching Chin Liu Yue and crying helplessly, swearing that it was Chin Guomin who had killed Chin Liu Yue's parents. Chin Liu Yue's eyes turned fierce as she vowed to avenge her parents. After calming her aunt, she planned to buy groceries and cook a good meal for her. Yet doubts gnawed at her heart. She didn't dare ask, and even about her aunt's accusation that Chin Guomin murdered her parents, she remained half in disbelief. Bruised and battered from the earlier beating, Chin Liu Yue was stunned by how ruthless that crazy mother and daughter had been. She decided to go to the hospital for a checkup. But on the way, she unexpectedly ran into the Yen family's second young master, Yen Chen. Yen Chen frowned at her injuries and asked how she got hurt. Chin Liu Yue stammered that she had just tripped and fallen. Yen Chen scanned her body from head to toe with a sharp gaze. Without another word, he swept her into his arms. "You can't go on like this. I'll take you to the hospital." The sudden move startled Chin Liu Yue, who quickly protested that it was only a small wound and she could just buy some medicine at a community clinic. But Yen Chen insisted, "Think of it as making up for not accompanying you to the ball last time." Chin Liu Yue felt deeply uneasy, yet she still didn't refuse him. Trouble struck. Song Mingho, the jealous Vinegar King, witnessed everything. He had claimed he came to visit his aunt, yet what he saw was Chin Liu Yue with another man. He snapped coldly, "You keep saying you'll fulfill your duty as the young madam of the Zong family? Chin Liu Yue, it seems I've been far too lenient with you. 18 years ago you deceived me. 18 years later, you've chosen to deceive me again." Memories from the past surged back. On a sunny day in the woods, Chin Liu Yue stumbled upon Zong Mingho sleeping on the grass. Eyeing his designer clothes, she thought they'd fetch a good price. Just as she reached out, Zong Mingho suddenly woke up. "What are you trying to do to me?" Chin Liu Yue pinned the frail boy to the ground. "These clothes are worth a fortune. Hand them over." Afterward, Zong Mingho hugged his clothes pitifully. But before he could recover, the little rogue lunged at him, bit him hard and snatched the clothes back. Unwilling to back down, Chin Liu Yue yanked him into her arms and toppled him again. The sudden closeness left Zong Mingho blushing furiously. In the end, Chin Liu Yue tore away his clothes and bolted. Hunger left Zong Mingho too weak to chase her. Overcome with homesickness, tears streamed down his face. Just then, Chin Liu Yue reappeared and handed him a fresh loaf of bread. "Stop crying. Your clothes aren't worth much, so I traded them for food." Chin Liu Yue tilted her head. "You look pretty well off. Did your family abandon you?" Zong Mingho shot back proudly, "None of your business. I don't talk to bad people." Chin Liu Yue turned away. So cute but such a bad temper. Zong Mingho stole a glance at her. "What's your name?" Chin Liu Yue smiled and replied, "My name is Chin Liu Yue." Back in the present, Zong Mingho, burning with jealousy, shut her out completely. Chin Liu Yue begged in confusion, but he refused to answer. Chin Liu Yue hurriedly dialed Zong Mingho's phone, but he coldly dismissed her under the excuse of work. The consequences of a jealous, scheming CEO were truly severe. She couldn't understand what she had done wrong to deserve such ruthless treatment. In the past, she had longed to leave the Zong family, but now she couldn't. Not long ago, her aunt revealed a truth that had been buried for years. The Qin Group had once been a renowned publicly listed company. Everything changed after her grandfather's sudden death from a heart attack. Her father had just taken over the business and had no time to investigate the cause, when tragedy struck again. That night, a devastating chain collision occurred, killing Qin Liyue's parents. Only her aunt managed to escape with her. Yet the car accident left no evidence behind. From then on, the Qin Corporation was hollowed out, eventually falling into Qin Guomin's hands. The vase left behind by her parents became the only clue. If she could uncover its secret, the truth might finally come to light. Now she had no choice but to rely on the Zhong family's resources to investigate her parents' deaths. Perhaps it was selfish, but if she lost the Zhong family's help, she might never be able to clear her parents' names in this lifetime. At that moment, Zhong Mingho frowned deeply. Watching Qin Liyue weep alone on the surveillance feed, his heart twisted. Wasn't I trying to punish her? Then why does it hurt so much? Suddenly, the Zhong family's gates opened. Sitting in his car, Zhong Mingho drove past Qin Liyue, silently glancing at her through the window. Seeing this, Qin Liyue lunged forward, blocking his car and shouting, "Stop! Why are you driving me away? What did I do wrong?" Zhong Mingho remained unmoved, ignoring Qin Liyue's pleas. In the end, he brushed past her coldly, never once looking back. Qin Liyue stood alone in the pouring rain, tears streaming down her face. The Zhong family was her only hope to uncover her parents' deaths. Was everything about to fall apart? Watching the thunderstorm outside, Zhong Mingho couldn't help but think of the wife he had shut out. Could she really still be waiting for me? He canceled his work and headed home. Anxiety gnawed at him along the way. She's not a child. Surely she wouldn't be foolish enough to stand in the rain like that. He pretended to be indifferent, yet his foot slammed down on the accelerator. Only an idiot would fall for her little act. Meanwhile, Qin Liyue shivered violently outside the door. When have I ever endured such humiliation? If not for uncovering the truth behind my parents' deaths, I would have left long ago. Now even the heavens are making me the pitiful heroine of some tragic play. She never expected Zhong Mingho to actually return. As he stepped out of the car, he scolded coldly, "Don't you know how to find shelter from the rain? Who are you putting on this act for?" Qin Liyue tried to reach out and call his name, but her weakened body gave out. She collapsed into unconsciousness. Holding her in his arms, Zhong Mingho muttered bitterly, "Why did I come back for her? Why should I care whether she lives or dies? This cunning little brat must be staging another act." After rushing her to the hospital, he was stunned by the doctor's report. Qin Liyue's body bore multiple injuries. Didn't she just take a couple of falls? How could she be this fragile? He demanded. The doctor replied firmly, "These wounds are clearly from human-inflicted beatings." At that moment, Zhong Mingho's gaze turned sharp. "You didn't even tell me you were beaten? How could my woman be bullied by others?" His assistant then reported the incident of Qin Liyue being beaten at the Qin family's house. Only then did Zhong Mingho realize, so she wasn't secretly meeting with Yanchen, she just fell. Yanchen had rushed to catch her, and they must have gone to the hospital together. Zhong Mingho immediately ordered his assistant to investigate Qin Liyue's medical records. Qin Liyue lay in the hospital bed, her face showing signs of pain. Upon learning the truth, Zhong Mingho clenched his fists in anger. "They dared to hurt my woman. They truly don't respect the Zhong family." Just then, Qin Liyue woke up from her dream, her heart racing as she thought, "I never imagined I'd become the tragic heroine. Could he have been the one who brought me to the hospital? So there might still be hope." Qin Liyue asked where the vase was now. She tried to get up to look for it, but her assistant stopped her. Once she learned it was kept in a safe place, she finally relaxed. "I can't give up easily. I have to investigate my parents' deaths." Later, Zhong Mingho sat in his garden reflecting. He admitted to himself that he had misunderstood Qin Liyue, but his pride wouldn't allow him to apologize. "She used to tear my clothes off when we were kids and left me with that trauma." At that moment, he heard someone call his name. Qin Liyue slowly walked toward him and asked, "Why did you kick me out of the house? I want to know the reason." He dismissed her question. "Why don't you go ask what you did 18 years ago?" Qin Liyue was confused by his words, and Zhong Mingho was shocked that she had completely forgotten what happened. He quickly changed the subject. What do you want from me? Qin Luiyue explained the connection between the vase and her parents, hoping to uncover its truth through the Zhong family museum. She felt nervous, fearing rejection. Seeing Qin Luiyue stammering, Zhong Mingho sighed and then handed her the results he had already gathered. He confessed that when Qin Luiyue fainted, she had tightly clutched the vase, so he had already done a thorough investigation on it. The vase itself was of average quality and wasn't worth much, but the most important thing was the person who gave it. Qin Luiyue, puzzled, asked, "Who was the person who gave the vase?" Zhong Mingho smiled lightly and replied, "You wouldn't know until I tell you. This vase came from a famous film family merchant." Zhong Mingho continued, "This mysterious family is mainly focused on investments, and the vases made by the merchant are typically given as gifts to friends, not sold publicly." Qin Luiyue was shocked to learn that her parents had made a deal with this merchant. After a moment's thought, Zhong Mingho said, "To be exact, it should be your mother's family. This merchant rarely gives such valuable items to private individuals, unless your mother came from a top-tier aristocratic family." Qin Luiyue was stunned for a moment, then shook her head and said, "When my mother passed away, no one from her family came to find me." Finally, there seemed to be some clues. Qin Luiyue was about to express her thanks when Zhong Mingho grabbed her hand and pulled her into his arms. "Then how are you going to thank me?" He leaned closer to Qin Luiyue, whispering, "Tonight, give yourself to me." Just as the atmosphere grew intense, an assistant's voice suddenly interrupted, "Miss Yen has arrived." Qin Luiyue, using the excuse of looking for Yen Xiaonhua, hastily fled the scene. After Qin Luiyue left, Zhong Mingho picked up his tablet again and swiped across the screen. The real reason he investigated Qin Luiyue's vase was because it resembled a piece from the Zhong family's collection. Could it be that the Zhong and Qin families once had some connection? Meanwhile, as soon as Yen Xiaonhua saw Qin Luiyue, she rushed toward her, exclaiming, "Baby, I've missed you so much." She openly admitted she was upset. That Mikur, that fake sweet girl, clearly likes Zhong Mingho but keeps leading Yen Chen on. So annoying. Yen Xiaonhua then revealed, Zhong Mingho actually has someone he's always liked. Someone from his childhood who left a lasting shadow on him. This news made Qin Luiyue feel a wave of sadness. She never imagined that the person was herself. Qin Luiyue snapped back to reality and realized they had arrived at a bridal shop. With a puzzled expression, Qin Luiyue asked, "Why are we at a bridal shop?" Yen Xiaonhua, grinning mischievously, replied, "Of course, we're here to stir things up." In order to get back at the fake sweet girl Wang Lan, Yen Xiaonhua secretly bought the wedding dress Wang Lan had pre-ordered, almost making her furious. Seeing the fake smile on the attendant's face, Qin Luiyue felt like she was on the verge of breaking down, but there was nothing she could do. Yen Xiaonhua was secretly delighted in the corner, and Qin Luiyue guessed that this had to be one of Yen Xiaonua's pranks. Yen Xiaonhua, with a smug look, said, "Who would have thought she'd buy a wedding dress from my mall? Just consider it me playing a trick on her." To please Wang Lan, Qin Gao planned to take her to buy the latest LW bag, but the cunning Wang Lan insisted on going to the milk tea shop across the street. After seeing Qin Gao leave, Wang Lan didn't wait for her boyfriend at the bridal shop. Instead, she went to the LW boutique, looking around, unsure what shady business she was up to. Just then, a greasy, overweight man walked toward her. "Lan Lan, you're here. I've missed you so much. I even rented out the whole store just for you. You can pick whatever you want." The eager, greasy man tried to get too close, but Wang Lan, suspicious, immediately warned, "Don't touch me. There are too many people outside. It'll be bad if someone sees us. Let's go inside. You can do whatever you want in there." Wang Lan never expected that their secret meeting would be witnessed by Yen Xiaonhua and Qin Luiyue. She said with urgency, "I don't have much time. You better hurry. You're carrying our child, so I'll be careful." At that moment, Qin Luiyue finally realized. Wang Lan was the fat man's mistress, and the man who abandoned her, Qin Gao, was just a stepping stone. No wonder she was in such a rush to marry Qin Gao. She's clearly worried about the timing of the baby's birth. Just then, the heavy sound of footsteps drew closer, and a burly woman, draped in mink, suddenly appeared at the entrance. "You fat bastard, you've got 10 seconds to get out here. If not, I'll lock all your credit cards." Trouble struck. The fat man broke into a cold sweat when he found out his wife had arrived. With the task unfinished, he quickly ran off to deal with the situation, and Wang Lan was also flustered. The fat man pretended to act casual and asked his wife why she was here, but the wealthy woman wasn't buying it. She shoved him aside and shouted, "Where's that shameless vixen?" The fat man knew he was doomed. The three gathered, and the wealthy woman questioned with full authority, "You've been seeing someone behind my back and you've got the guts to bring her to my home?" The fat man was left speechless. Wang Lan wasn't going to back down either. She fired back, "Didn't you say you'd divorce this old woman? Do you want her or do you want me and the child in my belly?" Just then the milk tea spilled and the scene grew awkward. Qin Gao felt like his heart shattered. "The child's not mine. I'm just a stepping stone in this whole mess." The two people in the corner seemed ready to jump in, preparing to make their move. Being a son-in-law was one thing, but to be treated like a stepping stone? "I'm just baffled. Your family isn't some rich aristocrat. Where do they get all the money to buy luxury cars and bags?" With a loud slap, Qin Gao stormed over and slapped Wang Lan across the face. "So I'm just your kept man, huh?" The fat man, seeing Wang Lan being slapped, immediately retaliated with a slap to Qin Gao's face. "Don't you dare hurt them." The wealthy woman couldn't hold back any longer and threw a powerful uppercut, knocking the fat man to the ground, spitting blood. "You two are a bunch of shameless dogs." Wang Lan stepped forward, defending her husband. "Your husband doesn't love you anymore. You two should just get a divorce already." The four of them were caught in a huge brawl, a scene that was nothing short of spectacular. Qin Luyue, watching from the sidelines, couldn't help but feel enlightened. They brought this upon themselves. She didn't forget to thank Yan Xiaonua, realizing who the people were that truly cared for her. In the end, the two of them embraced tightly. That day, Zhong Mingho's mother scolded him furiously over the phone, always believing that Qin Luyue was an outsider and didn't deserve to enter the Zhong family. In a fit of rage, she declared, "If I don't see my grandson within a year, I'll break up your marriage." There's always one problem after another. Faced with his mother's angry questioning, Zhong Mingho gave a perfunctory response and hung up the phone. He muttered to himself, "Why does everyone love pushing for kids? Having a baby isn't something I can do alone. Should I just rip her clothes off myself?" On the other side, Zhong's mother angrily threw her phone on the floor, grumbling, "That brat dared to hang up on me. He's forgotten his mother ever since he got married. He never used to be like this. Could it be that he's actually falling for her?" As it turns out, all of this was orchestrated by fake sweet girl Mi Ke behind the scenes. She pretended to comfort Zhong's mother and even baked cookies to please her. She really knew how to play the game. Her series of actions truly won Zhong's mother's heart. Zhong's mother sighed, "If it weren't for Qin Luyue, you should have married Mingho. I don't know what got into that kid. He left you for her and went after his brother's wife." Mi Ke then put on a pitiful expression and said she could wait until Zhong Mingho came to his senses. The whole point of these tricks was to pull Zhong's mother into her camp, and when the time came, Zhong Mingho would be hers for the taking. The next day, Zhong Mingho sent out bidding invitations to major global advertising companies and also forwarded the bidding requirements to the company where Qin Luyue worked, AI Lu Mao. Upon learning that AI Lu Mao would be participating in the bid, Zhong Mingho smirked with a sense of possessiveness. It seemed the fish had taken the bait. "Qin Luyue, you can't escape from my grasp. I'll make sure your life is gradually controlled by me. This is the consequence of you stripping me bare in our childhood." At this moment, Yan Xiaonua was angrily shouting at the senior executives of AI Lu Mao. She was furious that the company had accepted the Zhong family's advertising bid. The director looked confused and asked, "Isn't it normal for a company to place a bid?" Yan Xiaonua glared at her and scolded, "It seems like you've been blinded by money. This is exactly the reshuffling tactic the Zhong group often uses. It looks like an extremely tempting offer. But in reality, it's the opposite. With such a huge temptation, it will inevitably lead to vicious competition. The small and medium companies that can't compete with the advertising giants will eventually be eliminated from the industry. In this advertising bid, they've chosen to take a risky approach, aiming to secure the T-brand's single-item bid. It's all or nothing." The two of them held hands tightly, firmly believing they would succeed. Wait, the plot is getting off track again. This is a CEO romance novel. Meanwhile, fake sweet girl Mi Ke was shocked to learn that Qin Luyue was bidding for the Zhong family's tea ad. She knew all too well that this was Zhong Mingho deliberately doing Qin Luyue a favor. Reeling from her failure in romance, Mi Ke planned to enter the competition and make Qin Liyue lose face. Qin Liyue's entire team was united and determined to win. At that moment, Yan Xiaonuo raised her hand and suggested, "Let's all go for some late-night snacks." But it was Yan Ku, the eldest son of the Yan family who had just returned from abroad, who footed the bill. With looks and wealth rivaling Zhong Mingho, Yan Ku was the perfect man, and Yan Xiaonuo's intention was clear: to introduce her brother to Qin Liyue. Unexpectedly, when Yan Ku saw Qin Liyue for the first time, he was momentarily stunned. Her innocent expression reminded him of someone from his past. After several calls from Yan Xiaonuo, Yan Ku finally snapped out of it. The main reason he came this time was to take his sister home. Watching his sister cling to Qin Liyue so closely, a sense of sadness as if he were a father giving his daughter away crept into Yan Ku's heart. After watching the two leave, Qin Liyue couldn't help but feel, people really are incomparable. If only that reserved Zhong Mingho were as gentle as Xiaonuo's brother, that would be so much better. The thunderstorm outside made her worry. She was the only one left at the office, unsure when she would be able to go home. At that moment, the sound of footsteps slowly approached. Qin Liyue looked up and saw Zhong Mingho passing by. Seeing the lights still on, he stopped by to check in. Qin Liyue immediately saw through his lie. The Zhong mansion and this place were clearly not in the same direction. Zhong Mingho, with a hint of bashfulness, took out some snacks and handed them to Qin Liyue. "A client sent some snacks. I'm not eating, so I brought them for you." A day without pretending feels so uncomfortable, Qin Liyue thought, puzzled. When did this scheming Xiao become so kind-hearted? What's that in your hand? Is it the bid proposal for the tea ad? Let me see it. Qin Liyue quickly put the file away and looked at him with a firm gaze. It's confidential. No peeking, no means no, and that'll drive you crazy. Zhong Mingho suddenly leaned closer, asking, "Aren't you working on the Zhong family's ad? Why can't I see it?" Seeing that Qin Liyue was resisting, he switched tactics. "I'm your husband now. Isn't it okay for a husband to look at his wife's documents?" Qin Liyue blushed deeply and shouted, "Not even if you're my husband." With Yan Dasha's return, the Yan family regained its usual liveliness. However, Yan Ku appeared troubled, and Yan Qin, the second son, noticed something was off from his expression. After pressing him, Xiaono finally admitted that she had taken him to meet Qin Liyue because she wanted her brother to marry Qin Liyue so that she and Qin Liyue could be together forever. At that moment, Yan Ku lay on the bed, staring at a photo while muttering to himself, "Why does she look so much like her?" The photo he was holding was of Qin Liyue when she was a child. Meanwhile, Qin Liyue was enjoying the cream cake Zhong Mingho had prepared for her. Watching his satisfied wife smile, Zhong Mingho couldn't help but feel content. "Once you get used to this cake, I wonder how you'll ever leave me. Who would have thought this scheming Xiao had such a shy, hidden side?" He then pulled out a USB drive and said, "This has all the information you need. As for the style direction, that's up to you." Qin Liyue immediately got excited. "I'll definitely come up with a proposal that will surprise you." "Good luck then, my taste is very picky." Qin Liyue couldn't help but ask, "Why did you specifically point out for my company to participate in the bidding?" Zhong Mingho turned his head arrogantly and said, "Don't think too highly of yourself. I'm doing this to be fair to everyone. Since you're participating, you also have to face the risk of being eliminated." After hearing this, Qin Liyue looked at him with teary eyes. "I understand, but I still want to thank you. This is my first time organizing such a big creative competition, and it really means a lot to me." The sudden heartfelt words stirred something in Zhong Mingho. The next second, he leaned in and kissed the corner of Qin Liyue's mouth. Qin Liyue, confused, turned bright red and wanted to push him away but felt too weak to do so. The two of them shared a moment, their breaths mingling, and the air around them seemed to buzz with romantic tension. Afterward, Qin Liyue looked at him in confusion, and Zhong Mingho regained his composure. He explained, "You had cream on your mouth. I was just cleaning it off." Then he quickly ran away. "Where's the cream? Liar, you just wanted to take advantage of me." Zhong Mingho grinned, looking smug, and said, "This imported cream tastes really good." As the deadline for the Zhong family's advertising bid approached, Qin Liyue and Xiaonuo worked hard, and they finally submitted the proposal. With a happy mood, Qin Liyue suggested, "Let's all head to the bar to relax." To her surprise, The employees spent most of their time discussing Wang Lan's past romantic escapades. At this point, Qin Luiyue and Xiaonhua were both feeling a bit tipsy. Suddenly, Qin Luiyue got up to go to the restroom, and although Xiaonhua offered to accompany her, Qin Luiyue refused. Qin Luiyue tried to act strong, thinking she was fine, but as soon as she entered the restroom she nearly vomited, dizzy and unable to see clearly. At that moment she heard someone call her name. A set of footsteps slowly approached. Qin Luiyue turned her head, recognizing the voice as somewhat familiar. In her dazed state, she mistakenly thought the person in front of her was Zhong Mingho. What is he doing here? Didn't he go back to the Zhong family's old mansion? Still confused, she asked, "What are you doing here?" Just then Zhong Mingho walked over and pulled her into his arms. "I'm here to take you with me, my little baby." The strong scent of perfume made Qin Luiyue suspicious. Zhong Mingho never wore perfume and he would never call her little baby. Qin Luiyue quickly stepped back, still confused, and asked, "Who are you?" The man smirked with a devious grin. "How could you not recognize me, Qin Luiyue, my little baby? You're drunk. Let me take you home and we can catch up." This man was none other than Qin Luiyue's ex, Qin Gao, who had recently been cheated on by his girlfriend Wang Lan, and had become the stepping stone for others. Embarrassed and enraged, he planned to take advantage of Qin Luiyue to regain his lost dignity. Once Qin Luiyue recognized him, she immediately snapped out of her daze. Qin Gao cornered her and reached out with ill intentions. Fully awake, Qin Luiyue swiftly slapped his filthy hands away and coldly said, "Pervert, don't touch me. If you dare lay a finger on me, Zhong Mingho will never let you off." At this point, Qin Gao couldn't care less. He reached out his hands again, leering, and said, "Do you think Zhong Mingho will still want you as his wife after he finds out I've touched you?" He then grabbed Qin Luiyue and ripped her clothes off. Qin Luiyue screamed loudly, struggling desperately, "Just give in to me. Someone will come to save you." As soon as the words left his mouth, someone kicked the door open. Bewildered, Qin Gao roared, "Who the hell is interfering? Who dares hit me? I'll make sure to deal with you." Before he could finish speaking, the person who entered nearly scared him to death. It was none other than Yan Ku, the second son of the Yan family. "Miss Qin is my little sister's friend. You dare touch Miss Qin? You're asking for trouble." Realizing the situation wasn't good, Qin Gao quickly ran off. Qin Luiyue, having been saved, collapsed from exhaustion and fainted. Yan Ku swiftly picked her up, relieved that he had followed her and seen Qin Gao trailing behind. Otherwise, the consequences would have been unthinkable. After the celebration dinner, Yan Xiaonhua took Qin Luiyue back to the Zhong family. Just then, a refreshing scent of soap suds wafted from behind her. It was a calm, reassuring scent, Zhong Mingho's signature fragrance. Zhong Mingho, looking displeased, asked, "Why are you so late coming back?" Qin Luiyue thought to herself, "Is he here to play the big brother role? Why is he always so grumpy? It's just a company dinner, why is he here?" Zhong Mingho replied impatiently, "Is it wrong for me to come pick you up? You don't like it." Then, covering his nose, he added with a disgusted look, "From now on, no more drinking so much. It smells terrible." Though he was being contradictory, Zhong Mingho not only took off his jacket and draped it over Qin Luiyue, but also took her delicate hand. "Hold on to me tightly, I can see you can't even walk straight after all that drinking." The warmth from his hand sent a wave of comfort through Qin Luiyue. While his wife went to take a shower, Zhong Mingho secretly browsed bars in the area, planning to find an opportunity to spend some quality time alone with her. Looking at her harmless face, he couldn't help but feel scheming inside. Suddenly, Qin Luiyue opened the door, and Zhong Mingho quickly closed his laptop, trying to shift the conversation to ask about her bidding project. Qin Luiyue, frustrated, hugged the pillow and said, "After this bidding project, I realized my own shortcomings. My experience and vision are still very limited." Zhong Mingho responded, "The company is doing some research on a few bars. I was thinking of inviting you to go with me." Qin Luiyue perked up immediately upon hearing this. "Just the two of us?" Zhong Mingho flashed a mischievous smile and said, "What, are you afraid someone will interrupt us?" Qin Luiyue thought to herself, "What's with this smug expression? I'm only inviting you for a drink to thank you for helping me, nothing more." Zhong Mingho, seeing his goal achieved, quickly turned over his back to Qin Luiyue, secretly pleased with himself. "I have something to do this weekend, so let's do it next week." You'll be treating, so it's settled. Good night. Qin Liyue, looking displeased, replied, I have plans this weekend too. The night was quiet, and from a distance of 3 meters, the two of them were filled with suspicion and concern for each other. Soon the first weekend arrived. Qin Liyue agreed to go with Xiaonhua to accompany her brother Yan Ku to a banquet to broaden her horizons. To her surprise, Zhong Mingho also showed up, with fake sweet girl Mi Ke trailing behind him. Mi Ke, seeing Zhong Mingho ignore her, watched as he walked away. He came up with a plan, thinking, I've worked so hard to get this medicine. Zhong Mingho, enjoy it. After tonight you'll be mine. At this moment, Zhong Mingho was leaning against the wall, wondering where Qin Liyue was. Suddenly, a bartender approached him, saying the drink was specially prepared for him by the event organizers. Zhong Mingho didn't think much of it and drank it right away. Downstairs, Mi Ke watched as he drank the alcohol, her face flushed with a sly grin. I'll take you to my room now. You'll be mine. But unexpectedly, a third party interrupted. Yan Ku called out to her, I just returned to the country recently. Would Miss Me mind stepping aside for a chat? Mi Ke thought to herself, why am I meeting this fool at such a critical moment? If I don't act fast, I'll lose my chance. She hesitated, about to refuse Yan Ku. However, when she looked down the stairs, she realized Zhong Mingho was nowhere to be seen. Meanwhile, Qin Liyue suddenly felt a large hand reach from behind. She was still haunted by the memory of Qin Gao's touch. Turning around, she found it was Zhong Mingho, whose eyes were dazed and his face flushed with embarrassment. After an unexpected night of intimacy with his wife, he had taken everything for himself, but now he wore a pitiful expression as if he were the victim. At this moment, fake sweet girl Mi Ke felt deeply regretful. The duck she had nearly caught had flown away, and Qin Liyue had reaped the benefits. In a desperate attempt to win Zhong Mingho's heart back, she flirted and tried all sorts of ways to please him. But Zhong Mingho grew more and more indifferent towards her. Mi Ke silently swore that she wouldn't let Qin Liyue have it easy. Zhong Mingho, being meticulous, sensed that something was off and decided to investigate what had actually happened. At this moment, Qin Liyue found Yan Ku and confessed that she wasn't feeling well, so she planned to go back and rest. Seeing her face flushed, Yan Ku offered to take her home, but she refused. Watching Qin Liyue hurriedly leave, Yan Ku thought her tone sounded strange, as if she was trying to avoid something. The next day, Zhong Mingho looked at his blood test report and confirmed that he hadn't been drugged that night. Could all of this be because he couldn't help himself? The scenes from that night with his wife kept replaying in his mind, and just thinking about how he had looked, crying like a child, made him furious. To escape all this, he decided to go on a business trip out of town to lay low. At this moment, he was conflicted, wondering if he had shown the strength of a man the night before. Qin Liyue had planned to avoid him, but to her surprise, Zhong Mingho, that coward, hadn't gone home at all. Clearly, she was the one who was at a disadvantage, but he made it seem like he was the victim. Suddenly, Xiaonhua came over with a file and asked her, casually inquiring about how she had enjoyed the cruise banquet last night. Qin Liyue gave a perfunctory answer on the surface, but in reality her back and waist had been sore for several days. Xiaonhua, sensing something from her hesitant tone, picked up on it. I knew it, men are such big idiots. They just leave you behind without a care, so irresponsible. These words made Qin Liyue feel even more guilty. Does Xiaonhua already know about this? If I hide it from her, she'll definitely be mad. Maybe I should just tell her the truth. To her surprise, Xiaonhua was talking about her own older brother Yan Ku. The unexpected revelation almost made Qin Liyue choke on her own breath. Xiaonhua then asked, actually, both my second brother and my older brother are much better than Zhong Mingho. Which one do you like? I can introduce you to them. Qin Liyue pinched her cheek and replied, I don't like any of them. I only like you. Because once she uncovered the truth about her parents' death, she would leave this city. By then, the one she would miss most would be Xiaonhua. To her surprise, this scene was witnessed by the assistant, who couldn't help but exclaim, a mature woman with a little girl? The nosebleeds are real. Meanwhile, Mi Ke, in order to deal with Qin Liyue, brought in Qin Gao. Qin Gao thought his charm had won the wealthy woman's heart. The next second, Mi Ke placed 100,000 yuan in front of him and said, I know you're Qin Liyue's ex. I heard you two had some unpleasant history. She has a materialistic aunt. Help me destroy them, and after the job's done, I'll give you 200,000 yuan. At first, Qin Gao hesitated, feeling guilty towards Qin Liyue, but under the temptation of money, he revealed his ugly, selfish side. Mi Ke, meanwhile, looked on with a smug expression, eagerly awaiting his good news. Meanwhile, Qin Liyue, fast asleep, was dreaming of the happy time she spent under her parents' care as a child. Suddenly, the voice of "the young master is back" startled her and she jumped up from the bed. She wasn't ready to face the man who had taken her first time. She wandered aimlessly in her room, feeling lost, her heart racing uncontrollably. With everything having come to this point, she could only move forward one step at a time. Zhong Mingho, on the other hand, tried to numb himself with work, always maintaining a nonchalant expression. When the two met, all the details of that night instantly resurfaced in their minds. They had thought time would dull everything, but instead the strange impulse they felt for each other grew stronger. Assistant Xiao Zhao broke the awkward silence between them. Zhong Mingho came back this time with the intention of taking Qin Liyue to the old house. Because younger brother Mingzi suddenly had an attack, and their parents are abroad, leaving only the grandmother to accompany him. Bringing Qin Liyue along is just to make her happy. Upon hearing this, Qin Liyue immediately felt something was off. Mingzi, suffering from his illness, sat in a wheelchair looking gloomy. Qin Liyue, nervous at meeting the grandmother, broke into a cold sweat. The grandmother reminded them to be mindful when speaking to Mingzi, then glanced at Qin Liyue. Qin Liyue couldn't understand the meaning behind the look. But then the grandmother smiled and said, "Everything will be fine." Mingzi, upon seeing his older brother, immediately rushed over to him. At that moment, he noticed a strange woman standing beside him. Who is this beautiful lady? She looks so familiar. Zhong Mingho, sensing the right moment, leaned closer to Qin Liyue's ear and whispered, "Mingzi was injured 18 years ago, which affected his brain. His memory only goes as far as age 8 and he cannot retain any memories beyond that." Sensitive Qin Liyue was shaken by his words, feeling a tingling sensation in her body. She then pretended to be friendly and greeted Mingzi. The eager Mingzi suggested taking her to the back garden to play. Qin Liyue, wearing high heels, felt his hand still tightly gripping hers. But unexpectedly she stumbled, losing her balance. As she was about to fall, Qin Liyue pulled her hand away from Mingzi's grasp. The sight of it nearly scared Zhong Mingho out of his wits. Qin Liyue desperately watched the table corner she was about to collide with, thinking to herself, it's over. I'll either be knocked out or get hurt." Just then a hand pulled her back. It was Zhong Mingho. The force made her fall into Zhong Mingho's arms, causing him to tumble to the ground. Madame Zhong, furious, shouted, "What are you two doing? Help her up." The bodyguards rushed forward, calling "Young Master," and quickly tried to help them up. Zhong Mingho asked with concern, "Are you okay? I owe him for saving me just now and he even cushioned my fall. If I were with him, it might not be such a bad idea." Zhong Mingho suddenly changed his tone. "Then why aren't you getting off me? How long are you going to stay like this? That guy is still as annoying as ever. I must have been dazzled by his looks earlier." Qin Liyue turned to look at Zhong Mingzi, seeing him still looking down in silence. "Compared to me, Mingzi must have been really scared." She leaned in closer to him and asked softly, "I didn't stand steady just now, did I scare you?" To her surprise, Zhong Mingzi teared up and apologized, "I was too reckless and made you and Big Brother fall. Please don't be mad at me, sis." Qin Liyue was utterly charmed. "That's too cute. He's just like a little puppy with watery eyes." Qin Liyue quickly reassured Zhong Mingzi, "I'm not mad and I'm not hurt." But then she added, "However, my clothes are torn." Just as she spoke, her clothes made a ripping sound. Madame Zhong ordered, "Why aren't you taking her to change clothes yet?" "Grandma, it's fine, no need to trouble yourself." "How could it be fine? Listen to Grandma," Zhong Mingho thought to himself. "This silly woman doesn't even know she should care more about me." While Qin Liyue went to change clothes, Zhong Mingzi decided to pick some flowers as an apology. Madame Zhong reminded him to be careful while picking them. Watching Zhong Mingzi's back as he left, Zhong Mingho asked his grandmother, "Wasn't Mingzi fine just recently? Why did he suddenly fall ill these past few days?" "It's those servants, they weren't keeping an eye on him and he accidentally dug up old things." Zhong Mingzi suggested rearranging some people to take care of his younger brother, but Madame Zhong rejected the idea, telling him, You don't need to worry about it. The topic then shifted back to Zhong Mingho. What about you? When can I have a grandson to hold? Before he could finish his sentence, Zhong Mingze ran off, saying, Grandma, I'll go spend some time with Mingze. Madame Zhong snorted, I can't control you, but I'll definitely get my granddaughter-in-law. I'll have to approach her then. In the living room, Madame Zhong said to Qin Luiyue, I know I've made things hard for you during this time. The reason we brought you into the Zhong family was to bring luck to Mingze. His condition has indeed improved. And today I saw you pull away from Mingze, probably because you were worried about him falling and getting hurt. Tell me, what do you want? You can ask for anything. Despite Qin Luiyue insisting that she needed nothing, Madame Zhong still doubted her. Your family background isn't great, and you often sleep in separate beds from Howard. Do you really have no other motives for entering the Zhong family? Faced with this suspicion, Qin Luiyue decided to take the initiative. Grandma, let me be direct. I do have a purpose for entering the Zhong family, but it's not for material wealth. My goal is the Zhong family's intelligence network. Actually, I've reached an agreement with Zhong Mingho. Oh. Madame Zhong's interest was piqued. I've heard some rumors about this, but I still want to hear it directly from you. Qin Luiyue replied clearly, From the very beginning, I knew this position wasn't mine to keep. The content of the agreement is that I play the role of the young madam of the Zhong family. This role allows me to access the Zhong family's intelligence network, to help me uncover the truth about my family's deaths. I'm willing to pay any price to uncover the truth from back then. So, please allow me to use the Zhong family's intelligence and connections to investigate and find the killer. Madame Zhong's face darkened as she asked, If you're trying to use the Zhong family, aren't you afraid I'll kick you out? Qin Luiyue replied firmly, The revenge for my parents is something I can never forget. There's nothing to hide, and it's something that can't be concealed. A hint of admiration flashed in Madame Zhong's eyes. So it's because her fate is better. Marrying her can help Mingze recover. It seems I underestimated this girl. Qin Luiyue nervously asked, So what's your answer, Madame Zhong? Madame Zhong didn't answer directly but said, Mingze seems to really like you. If you have time, you can come by and see him often. Qin Luiyue was overjoyed, thinking she's agreed. In the garden, Zhong Mingze was still picking flowers. Zhong Mingho spoke up, saying, Mingze, you've picked enough flowers. It's time for you to rest. Zhong Mingze, with his back to Zhong Mingho, asked, Brother, will you blame me? Zhong Mingho replied, Why would I blame you? Zhong Mingze continued, I almost made sister get hurt just now. We've always liked the same things since we were kids, and I really like that sister. So you must like her too. Zhong Mingho smiled and patted Zhong Mingze's head, comforting him, Don't worry about it. It's fine. We'll come visit you often. Zhong Mingze happily nodded, and then it settled. You must come visit me often. At that moment, a servant led Qin Luiyue, who had changed into new clothes, into the room. The young madam's clothes are ready. The old lady asks you to take the young madam to the restaurant. As soon as he saw Qin Luiyue, Zhong Mingze called out, Sister, and ran over, handing her a bouquet of flowers. I picked a lot of flowers for you. Qin Luiyue took the flowers and said, Thank you, they're really beautiful. Zhong Mingho softly agreed, They are indeed beautiful, though it was unclear if he was talking about her or the flowers. He walked up and held out a large bouquet of flowers to her. These flowers are for you. Mingze couldn't manage to pick them. However, his eyes didn't dare look directly at Qin Luiyue. Thank you. Qin Luiyue stared at Zhong Mingho, slightly stunned. Is he shy? No, it must be my imagination. The harmonious scene of the three was witnessed by Madame Zhong, who had a blonde woman beside her, reporting. You asked me to track the young master and young madam. I wasn't lying about what happened on the cruise. Their relationship is indeed very close. I know this child's personality well. If he doesn't care about someone, he's colder than anyone. But just now, he was willing to fall himself rather than let Qin Luiyue get hurt. Madam, this time young Master Mingho is truly in love. Unfortunately, the madam will eventually make a move because of this. She won't allow an ordinary person to stay in the Zhong family. Sigh, if I could have a grandson sooner, I'd be willing to help them. The Zhong family could certainly use some liveliness. That day, the director announced some good news to everyone. Zhongshe Group sent an email saying that our advertisement had made it to the shortlist. Yan Xiaonhua was somewhat dissatisfied, saying, just shortlisted? Qin Liyue comforted her. Xiaonua, getting shortlisted means we've already defeated many competitors. The chances of winning the bid are still high. The director agreed. Yes. But my goal is far beyond just that. The director walked over to Qin Liyue and said, Qin Liyue, Zhongshe Group will hold a bidding dinner this Saturday. Can you represent our company there? You're more familiar with Zhongshe Group. However, Yan Xiaono added, Qin Liyue, you should go. I heard Mi Kur's family is also bidding for the milk tea advertisement. Go and defeat them. Qin Liyue felt a surge of determination from Xiaonua's words. All right, I'll go. Qin Liyue had just successfully won the bid when Zhong Mingho took her to his office. She thought to herself, he doesn't plan on doing something here, does he? Her waist from last time still ached faintly. Thinking about it, Qin Liyue felt unusually embarrassed. Before she knew it, Zhong Mingho had already leaned close to her ear, softly saying, What are you thinking about? I've been calling your name for a while now, and you haven't said anything. Qin Liyue's face turned red with embarrassment, and she quickly took a step back. I was thinking about how to properly thank you for helping me again. But Zhong Mingho suddenly switched from his usual lazy demeanor and said, Speaking with strength is my basic principle. As for bringing you here, it's because I have something to show you. I hope you stay calm after seeing this, he said. It's the surveillance video from the car accident your parents were in. Qin Liyue's heart almost jumped out of her chest with tension. The car accident wasn't as simple as it seemed. It looked as though the two cars had intentionally collided. Now the driver responsible for the accident is dead and the clues have been cut off. It seems that someone must have put a lot of effort into covering up the truth. At this moment, Qin Liyue's entire body was trembling, and the tears in her eyes surged uncontrollably. Who could be so cruel? Though many years had passed, just mentioning it still caused her immense pain. The once proud Qin Liyue couldn't hold herself together any longer, and the wounds in her heart tortured her deeply. Zhong Mingho reached out to comfort Qin Liyue. Let it out, cry if you need to. With me here, everything will be okay. Before Zhong Mingho could reach out, Qin Liyue pulled him into a tight embrace. Don't look at me, just let me hold you for a moment, just for a little while. The two held each other tightly, and Qin Liyue cried out without hesitation in his arms. Last time you comforted me, so this time, let me comfort you. After releasing her emotions, Qin Liyue returned to the office, but there was not a soul in sight. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed, nearly scaring the life out of her. The crowd shouted, Congratulations, Qin Liyue, welcome back. Everyone was immersed in the joy of the moment. Mom and Dad, don't worry. The investigation may face many obstacles, but I will never back down because I am not alone. Some rejoiced, others were troubled. Mi Kur, the fake sweet girl, was apologizing to Madame Zhong with tears in her eyes. Madame Zhong also couldn't understand why Qin Liyue won the bid. She thought everything had already been arranged. Mi Kur, the fake sweet girl, looked at Madame Zhong with a feigned sense of grievance. Yesterday, Qin Liyue was so arrogant. Not only did she not take me seriously, but she even... Mi Kur's little scheme was firmly grasped by Madame Zhong, who intended to use her to get rid of Qin Liyue. However, as the saying goes, experience comes with age. Madame Zhong confidently said, I believe in your ability. Since the bid has been won, go supervise that milk tea advertisement. Mi Kur understood what Madame Zhong meant. As long as the advertisement doesn't air smoothly, the penalty fee is something that a small company like theirs won't be able to handle. She then stood up and asked Madame Zhong for permission to proceed with the arrangements. At this moment, Madame Zhong's face was full of coldness. I didn't expect Mingho to favor that lowly woman. I'll make sure to have my fun with her. I will never allow a commoner to feed off the Zhong family. After Qin Liyue's milk tea advertisement won the bid, Madame Zhong arranged for Mi Kur to make trouble behind the scenes, bribing the celebrity who was hired to film Qin Liyue's advertisement, ensuring that Qin Liyue would face difficulties during the ad's release. Yan Xiaonuan noticed the hidden agenda and planned to stand up for Qin Liyue, but was persuaded by Qin Liyue to step back. After Qin Liyue's hard work, the celebrity finally agreed to do the shoot, and the naive Qin Liyue was overjoyed. But Xiaonua, thinking about it, felt that the quick change of heart was definitely suspicious. At this point, a woman with delicate makeup reported to Mi Kur over the phone. She is the celebrity who is filming the advertisement for Qin Liyue's company, Chuan Inger. Upon hearing that she could make connections with a wealthy family, Chuan Inger was thrilled. Agreeing to the shoot was all part of a scheme. After hanging up the phone, Mi-Ker smiled slyly at the man in front of her. She hadn't expected Yen-Chin to be her backup. Mi-Ker came straight to the point and said, "I've invested in a jewelry store in City A. Due to losses, I want Yen-Chin to find someone to take over." Whether Mi-Ker did this intentionally or not, the jewelry industry was exactly Qin Liuyue's area of expertise. Mi-Ker feigned innocence, admitting that she didn't get along with Yen Xiaonua. Yen-Chin, mesmerized, replied, "I can notify Yen Xiaonua." All of this was part of Mi-Ker's calculation. Yen-Chin was nothing more than a pawn in her hands. Meanwhile, Qin Liyue was cooking instant noodles when her aunt, already in her 50s, suddenly announced she had found a second spring. She even claimed the young man was from a wealthy family. Qin Liyue quickly reminded her to be careful. Out of nowhere, Zhong Mingho silently appeared behind her. "What are you doing in the kitchen?" he asked. Qin Liyue was so startled she nearly jumped out of her skin, and immediately tried to block the noodles with her body. How could this pampered heir possibly eat instant noodles? Just as she was about to dump them, Zhong Mingho coughed lightly and said, "Smells pretty good. I'm hungry too. Let's eat together." Qin Liyue was in disbelief. Who would have thought the mighty heir of the Zhong family could be this down-to-earth? The noodles were making her mouth water, but Zhong Mingho ruined the mood by talking about work non-stop while eating, making Qin Liyue lose her appetite. Then came a slurping sound. They were eating the same strand of noodles from opposite ends. The playful accident made Qin Liyue's heart begin to melt. Seeing the perfect moment, Zhong Mingho seized it, pressing his lips onto Qin Liyue's tender ones. Qin Liyue nearly lost herself completely. Qin Liyue quickly found an excuse about work and fled the scene in a hurry. Zhong Mingho, however, looked reluctant to part. Qin Liyue muttered to herself, wondering when he would get the chance to kiss her again, especially since he was about to leave for a business trip abroad. Meanwhile, Qin Liyue's milk tea commercial project was in full swing. Unfortunately, the C-list actress they were working with was a nightmare to deal with. Acting under Mi-Ker's instructions, Chuan Inger kept stalling the shoot. Needing her cooperation, Qin Liyue could only force a smile the whole time, though inside she was cursing non-stop. Today was the final shooting day with the ad due for review tomorrow, yet Chuan Inger was still making trouble, dragging things out to the very last moment. Qin Liyue never expected such a third-rate celebrity to be this spoiled. It looked like another sleepless night was inevitable. Back at the office, the entire team waited anxiously for progress. Suddenly, Qin Liyue burst through the door and shouted, "I've got all the shooting materials. Tonight we'll have to pull an all-nighter." Her words instantly fired everyone up, as if they'd just been injected with adrenaline. After a night of grueling effort, the team finally completed the project just before sunrise. Qin Liyue finally exhaled, smiling in relief, hoping nothing unexpected would ruin the upcoming meeting. When the executives watched the commercial, their faces lit up with praise. Qin Liyue also let out a sigh of relief. She hadn't let the team's hard work go to waste. But then the sound of footsteps echoed, followed by a cold voice. "By order of Chairwoman Liang Hongwen, I'm here to oversee the ad's progress. Sadly, the result is disappointing." Qin Liyue's heart sank. She hadn't expected Mi-Ker to appear at this critical moment. Once the executives realized this was the will of the Zhong family's matriarch, they quickly shifted their stance. The verdict was harsh. If Qin Liyue couldn't deliver a satisfactory ad on time, she would owe 10 times the penalty. Fighting back her emotions, she asked what exactly was wrong with the project. Mi-Ker smirked, deliberately making things difficult. "Everything is wrong. Start over. Did you really think winning the bid meant you'd won? How naive." In the end, the executives bowed to power, leaving Qin Liyue seething with unwillingness. Could all their efforts really be erased just because of Mi-Ker's careless words? Overcome with frustration, tears streamed down her cheeks. Helpless, she choked out a plea to Chuan Inger for a reshoot, but the actress's agent pushed back relentlessly, refusing to cooperate. To make up for the damage already done, Qin Liyue swallowed her pride and went straight to Chuan Inger's apartment, only to be shut out. Inside, Chuan Inger lounged in black stockings, casually playing video games, and even ordered her assistant to throw Qin Luiyue out. As night fell, Qin Luiyue waited outside for hours. Annoyed by her persistence, Chuan Inger finally had her assistant step out and drive her away. When Qin Luiyue spotted the agent, her eyes lit up with desperate hope. She choked out that she was willing to give up all her bonuses and commissions, as long as Inger agreed to reshoot. In the end, the agent was moved by her determination and quietly revealed Inger's whereabouts. Watching Qin Luiyue rush off, the agent sighed. This woman was destined to rise above the rest. Out of breath, Qin Luiyue arrived at the Zhong family's grand hotel. Just as she pressed the elevator button, a wave of dizziness hit her and she collapsed on the spot. At that moment, Zhong Mingho stepped out of the elevator and caught her in his arms. He couldn't understand why she was here, or why she had suddenly fainted. He immediately ordered Xiao Zhao to fetch a doctor. Holding his unconscious wife in his arms, his expression grew darker and colder, killing intent flickering in his eyes. The doctor soon explained it was sheer exhaustion. Too many late nights and skipped meals had pushed her into shock. Xiao Zhao then reported everything that had happened during the ad presentation. Even in her unconscious state, Qin Luiyue muttered over and over, begging Chuan Inger to finish the reshoot. Zhong Mingho's heart ached. She had pushed herself this hard since childhood, back then picking up bottles and now throwing herself into work. He leaned down and kissed her forehead, whispering softly, "But it's exactly this side of you that I love." When Qin Luiyue woke up and saw him by her side, she thought he was there to scold her. Zhong Mingho asked why she was at the hotel. Qin Luiyue admitted she had come to beg Inger for a reshoot. Annoyed, he flicked her forehead with his finger. "The final approval is in my hands. Why didn't you just come to me? I've already watched the rough cut. Your studio didn't make any mistakes. I've had the advertising department recheck everything." Hearing this, Qin Luiyue sincerely thanked him. His pride swelled at her gratitude, secretly savoring the moment. But once he stepped out of the room, his vengeful side surfaced. He ordered the entire ad review department to have 1 month's salary and their year-end bonuses cut. On top of that, Zhong Mingho ordered Inger to be permanently blacklisted. After losing the Zhong family endorsement, she had no choice but to beg for Mikur's help. But to make matters worse, her tax evasion scandal was exposed by the media, and every major corporation in Imperial City cut ties with her. Cornered like a rat, Inger lashed out, demanding Mikur take full responsibility. Seeing that she had no more value, Mikur finally dropped the act. "You were blacklisted because of your own dirty tricks. Don't pin it on me," she sneered. "I gave you a little courtesy before and you actually thought you were somebody? Who do you think you are, yelling at me? I'm the heiress of the Mi family. And you're nothing but a second-rate actress. Daring to posture in front of me. Do you even deserve it?" With that, she turned and walked away without looking back. Inger gnashed her teeth in rage. "Mikur, just you wait." Seeing Inger fall so miserably, Qin Luiyue finally breathed a sigh of relief. Just then, Assistant Xiao Zhao came to her office, saying the young master wanted to see her and asked her to return to the Zhong family estate. Qin Luiyue grew worried. Didn't they say Mingza has short-term memory loss? How could he possibly remember me? At that moment, Mingza was sulking in a corner. The instant he saw Qin Luiyue, he rushed forward and threw his arms around her tightly. "Sister, I missed you so much. Didn't you promise you'd come see me often?" Qin Luiyue was stunned. "Mingza, you still remember me?" Beaming, Mingza nodded. "Of course I do. I even dreamed at noon that we were together. Not only that, I remember many things since meeting you. That's why you must be my lucky star. I really like you, sister." Hearing that Mingza's condition had improved, Grandma Zhong was overjoyed. It seems letting Qin Luiyue marry into the Zhong family was truly the right decision. Zhong Mingho kept a smile plastered on his face, but inside he bristled with jealousy at how much his younger brother relied on his wife. To make Mingza cooperate with his treatment, he and Qin Luiyue even hooked pinkies, promising to always stay by each other's side. After Grandma Zhong and Mingza left, Zhong Mingho, still simmering with jealousy, deliberately picked a fight to vent his sour feelings.